now be giving a chance to APA, the Asian Parliamentary Assembly, for 3 minutes. Mr. Al-Salum, you have the floor.
Thank you. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، السيدات والسادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يشرفني أن أتحدث أمام جمعكم الكريم بصفتي ممثل دولة الرئاسة الجمعية البرلمانية الآسيوية مملكة البحرين، معبراً عن تطلعات برلمانات قارة آسيا، وفي هذه الجلسة الهامة لاتحاد البرلمان الدولي التي تنعقد في مرحلة دولية دقيقة تتصاعد فيها التصعيدات العالمية وتزايد معها مسؤوليات المشتركة تجاه الأجيال القادمة. إن موضوع مناقشتنا اليوم لا يتعلق بالمستقبل فحسب، بل هو يعكس مسؤولية الحاضر في صياغة هذا المستقبل. فالعدالة بين الأجيال ليست مفهوما نظريا، بل هو التزام سياسي وأخلاقي يفرض علينا نظم قراراتنا اليوم لا تثقل كاهل الغد، بل تكون أفقا أوسع من الأمل والاستقرار. السيدات والسادة، تؤمن برلمانات آسيا بأن تعزيز الأمل وصون السلم يتطلبان إعادة ترسيخ الثقة في النظام الدولي متعدد الأطراف، والالتزام الصارم بمبادئ قانون الدولي في مقدمتها احترام السيادة وتسوية النزاعات بالوسائل السلمية وتعزيز التعاون القائم على الشركاء لا للإملاء. وفي هذا السياق نؤكد أن الدبلوماسية البرلمانية لم تعد خياراً تكميلياً، بل أصبحت أداة محورية في بناء الجسور وتخفيف التوترات وتعزيز التفاهم بين الشعوب، بما يسهم في دعم الأمن الجماعي وترسيخ الاستقرار الدولي. تواجه الساحة الدولية اليوم منظومة من التحديات المتشابكة والمعقدة، تدخل فيها النزاعات المتعددة مع تداعيات التغير المناخي، وتتسع فيها فجوات التنمية في ظل التحولات التكنولوجية متسارعة يتقدمها الذكاء الاصطناعي بما يحمله من فرص ومخاطر على حد السواء. وفي خضم هذه التحولات تبرز تطورات متسارعة وتصعيدات مقلقة، ولا سيما في منطقتنا تكشف بوضوح عن هشاشة منظومة الاستقرار الدولي، وتضع المجتمع الدولي أمام خيارات حقيقية لمدى قدرته على فرض قواعد القانون الدولي وصون مبادئه. ويؤدي استمرار هذه التوترات بما تحمله من انعكاسات إنسانية واقتصادية خاصة على أمن الملاحة الدولية وسلاسل الإمداد العالمية إلى تحقيق حالة عدم اليقين وتهديد الفرص التعافي والاستقرار، الأمر الذي يفرض تحركاً دولياً أكثر فعالية ويرتكز على التهدئة والدعم الحلول السياسية وتعزيز الالتزام الجماعي بقانون الدولي بما يحفظ السلم والأمن الدولين ويصون حقوق الأجيال القادمة. وتستدعي هذه التحديات استجابة برلمانية ترتقي إلى مستوى المسؤولية التاريخية التي تقوم على سن التشريعات استشرافية تراعي مصالح الأجيال القادمة وتعزز العدالة الاجتماعية وتحد من الفجوات الاقتصادية وتصون الموارد الطبيعية وتضمن استدامة، فضلاً عن ترسيخ الاستخدام المسؤولية التكنولوجيا بما يحفظ القيم الإنسانية ويحول دون توظيفها في زعزعة الاستقرار وتعميق الأزمات. الحضور الكريم، أن البرلمانات آسيا تدرك أن تحقيق العدالة للأجيال القادمة يبدأ من قدرتنا اليوم على اتخاذ قرار مسؤولية طويلة الأمد تستند إلى رؤية واضحة وإرادة جماعية. ومن هذا المنطلق فإننا ندعو إلى تعزيز هذا التعاون البرلماني الدولي وتبادل الخبرات، دعم النظم متعددة الأطراف وتطوير آلياته، الالتزام بتنفيذ القرارات الدولية بروح من المسؤولية المشتركة، العمل على بناء مستقبل قائم على السلام والعدالة والتنمية المستدامة. ختاماً، أن الأجيال القادمة لن تحاسبنا على ما واجهنا عليه من تحديات، بل اتخذناها قرارات، فأما أن نكون جيلاً يصنع الأمل أو جيلاً يؤمن بالأزمات. وبرلمانات آسيا وهي تدرك حجم المسؤولية تجدد التزامها بأن تكون جزءاً من الحل وشريكاً فاعلاً في بناء عالم أكثر توازن وعدالة. قبل الختام أود أتأكد أن الجمعية البرلمانية الآسيوية تؤكد دعمها الكامل لترشح معالي الشيخ خالد بن هلال المعولي لمنصب رئيس البرلمان الدولي للفترة القادمة ممثلاً لقارة آسيا. أشكركم على حسن الاستماع، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكراً.
Colleagues, we will now hear from the Asian Asian Inter-Parliamentary Union, IPU. Mr. Chen, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Dr. Julia Axon, President of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, Speaker of the National Assembly of the United Republic of Tanzania, Honorable Parliamentarians, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to convey my highest appreciation to the Parliament and Government of the Republic of Türkiye for their gracious hospitality and excellent arrangements for the meeting, as well as to the Inter-Parliamentary Union for its steadfast leadership in advancing parliamentary diplomacy and multilateral cooperation at a time when both are needed more than ever. The theme of this assembly, nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice for future generations, is both timely and deeply resonant. For ASEAN, peace is not an abstract ideal. It is the very foundation upon which our regional community has been built, as evidenced through the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, TAC, which celebrates this year its 50th anniversary. The Treaty on Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia is a normative, legally binding document guided by its 5 core principles, namely mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity, non-interference, the peaceful settlement of disputes, the renunciation of the threat or use of force, and effective cooperation. These are part of international law to secure lasting peace and justice in a concert of nations. Parliaments are indispensable to this endeavor through our legislative, oversight, budgetary, and representative functions. Our people-centered agenda generates hope, which must be nurtured through institutions that are responsive to the needs of the people, among others, women, girls, youth, and vulnerable persons, capable of delivering meaningful progress in times of uncertainty. Long-term peace and durable security have to prevail through a culture of accountability to the people we represent, as well as our unwavering sense of duty for social justice. As we enter the digital age and the rapid spread of utilization of artificial intelligence, political ethics should govern our economies. Securing employment and revenues are crucially important for our young generations. In this spirit, IPA is firmly committed to working in close partnership with the IPU and with parliaments across regions in advancing a more peaceful, predictable, equitable, harmonious, and cooperative international order. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chen from the Asian Inter-Parliamentary Assembly. Now we'll hear from the African Parliamentary Union, Mr. Gayap.
Mesdames et Messieurs les Présidents, chers collègues, Mesdames, Messieurs, c'est un grand honneur pour moi, Pierre Flambeau Ngayap, sénateur du Cameroun, de m'adresser à vous à l'occasion de cette 152e Assemblée de l'Union interparlementaire, comme porte-parole de l'Union parlementaire africaine. Cette Assemblée se tient à un moment où l'Union parlementaire africaine célèbre un grand jalon de son histoire, son 50e anniversaire. Il y a 50 ans, en effet, en 1976, à Abidjan, en Côte d'Ivoire, Notre organisation a vu le jour en réponse aux aspirations légitimes de liberté et d'autodétermination des peuples du continent africain. Dans le contexte des indépendances africaines, l'Union parlementaire africaine était et reste un espace essentiel de dialogue, de solidarité et de coopération entre les représentants des peuples du continent, permettant l'unification des forces, le partage d'idées et d'expériences et de projection d'une vision commune pour la région. En matière de coopération parlementaire, l'Union parlementaire africaine a joué un rôle essentiel dans la consolidation des jeunes démocraties en offrant une tribune de positionnement politico-diplomatique pour les États africains afin qu'ils soient entendus et respectés sur la scène internationale. Aujourd'hui, l'Union parlementaire africaine regroupe 41 parlements membres. Elle adopte régulièrement des résolutions et des déclarations favorables à la contribution des parlementaires à la résolution des crises que traverse notre continent, en particulier le monde en général. Mesdames, Messieurs les Présidents, chers collègues, l'espoir est un acte de résistance face aux incertitudes du monde présent. Bien plus, l'espoir donne la force pour relever les défis. Partout où la paix est menacée ou attaquée, nous devons la rétablir, nous devons la maintenir, nous devons la consolider par le dialogue, dans le respect des différences et des droits de chacun. Mais la paix ne peut se maintenir si la justice n'est pas garantie. Il n'y a pas de paix durable tant que persistent les inégalités. Il n'y a pas de paix durable tant que les droits des autres sont impunément violés. La justice est le fondement de la paix. Nous devons placer la paix et la justice au centre de nos choix. Nous sommes ensemble. Nous sommes obligés d'être ensemble. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, we will now hear from the representative of WHO, Mr. Suryantoro. Yes, please, you have the floor.
The Honorable Dr. Türkiye Aksen, Distinguished President of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, Your Excellency, Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Türkiye, IPU Secretary General, Excellencies, distinguished parliaments. It is an honor to address the Assembly on behalf of the World Health Organization on a topic of profound importance. We meet at the pivotal time when conflict is intensifying, inequalities are widening, and health emergencies is growing. During these increasingly complex and profound challenges, and the theme of this general debate, nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice for future generations, speak directly to WHO mandates and work. The constitutions of WHO affirms that health is not only a human right, but it's also the health of all people is fundamental to the attainment of peace and security. Almost 80 years later, those convictions remain as relevant as ever. In a fractured world, health is not a cost. It's an investment in development, it's a platform for cooperation, bringing countries together to find common ground for a common purpose and shared solution to shared challenges. It's a foundation for peace, justice, and human dignity. Our prime example is the World Health Organization Pandemic Agreement adopted by member states last year, a demonstration that multilateralism has a crucial role today as in yesterday. We ask you to stress to your country negotiators the imperative of concluding its pathogen access and benefit sharing annex so that we can look to the world that strengthen equity, preparedness, and coordinated response to future pandemics. Its successful implementation will depend on national leadership and on you. Parliaments play a critical role in translating global commitments into national action through ratification, legislation, and oversight, while helping to ensure that these commitments deliver real impact for people and communities. Your leadership is also essential in safeguarding health investments and supporting long-term, predictable financing, ensuring that health remains a priority, not only for today, but for future generations. Honorable members, I offer my deep appreciation to the IPU and to all parliamentarians for your strong and steadfast support to health and collaboration with WHO. In an increasing fractured world, your support is essential to ensure WHO remains a lifeline for millions of people worldwide. Together with the Inter-Parliamentary Union, we invite you to join us at the Global Parliamentary Forum taking place during the 79th World Health Assembly in Geneva on May 20th to strengthen the role of parliaments in global health governance. Thank you all for your leadership and commitment to multilateralism and to building a healthier, safer, fairer world for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dear colleagues, I am now pleased to welcome Ms. Heba Hargas, the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Ms. Hargas is an independent expert on the rights of persons with disabilities, as well as a former member of the Egyptian House of Representatives. She has been contributing substantively to the work of the IPU Standing Committee on Democracy and Human Rights as it develops its next resolution on the rights and empowerment of people with disabilities. Her latest report as Special Rapporteur focused on the political participation of persons with disabilities. Political participation of persons with disabilities, which also highlights intersectional perspectives for women with disabilities. The rights of persons with disabilities in conflict situations and humanitarian emergencies has also been a key focus of the United Nations Special Rapporteur's mandate. Her next report will speak to the issue of inclusive humanitarian assistance, which is at the core of our general debate theme. Colleagues, Ms. Hargas, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, Tulia Akçın, Mr. Secretary General Martin Chungo, honorable members of Parliament, thank you for the opportunity to address you today. As legislators, you hold a vital responsibility, ensuring that the rights and dignity of all people, especially those at risk, are protected before, during, and after humanitarian crises. Among those who depend on your leadership are persons with disabilities. Humanitarian emergencies, whether caused by conflict, climate-related disasters, or displacement, expose the strengths and weaknesses of national systems. They test whether our commitment to equality are embedded in law and practice, or whether they falter under pressure. For persons with disabilities, these moments often determine not only their safety, but their survival. The Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is clear. States must ensure the protection and safety of persons with disabilities in situations of risk. These obligations become even urgent during crisis. Yet too often, persons with disabilities are left behind, not because of their impairment, but because systems and responses are not designed with them in mind. Early warning messages that cannot be understood, evacuation procedures inaccessible to those with mobility or sensory disabilities, shelters without accessible sanitation, aid distribution that assumes that everyone can queue, can carry supplies, or communicate verbally. These are structural failures that demand legislative solutions. Parliamentarians have the authority to change this reality. You shape national disaster laws, humanitarian policies, budgets, and oversight mechanisms. You can ensure that disability inclusion becomes a mandatory requirement across all emergency planning and response. This includes embedding accessibility standards into disaster legislation, require humanitarian actors to consult with organizations of persons with disabilities, mandating disaggregated data collection so that no group remains invisible, and allocating resources to turn commitment into action. Inclusion without funding is mere rhetoric. You also play a critical role in accountability. Parliamentary committees can examine whether emergency responses reach persons with disabilities, demand transparency from ministries and partners, and ensure that national budgets reflect the need of all citizens. We must also recognize the heightened risk persons with disabilities face during crises. Violence, abandonment, and neglect. Women and girls with disabilities experience disproportionate gender-based violence. Children with disabilities are more likely to be separated from their families. These harms are preventable, and prevention begins with laws that prioritize protection. In October, I will be presenting my report on humanitarian assistance to the General Assembly. It will highlight the reality many of you already recognize. The global humanitarian system is undergoing a profound reset. Rising needs, shrinking resources, and shifting geopolitical dynamics are forcing governments to humanitarian action to rethink how assistance is delivered and to whom. This reset presents both a challenge and an opportunity. If equity and inclusions are not built into this transformative action, persons with disabilities will be again left behind. But if we insist that disability inclusion is a non-negotiable principle of humanitarian reform, you can help shape a system that is more resilient, just, and effective to all. Honorable members, disability-inclusive humanitarian action is not charity. It is a matter of rights, justice, and good governance. Your leadership can safeguard the dignity of millions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our special guests, for the insights that you have shared with us. We really appreciate the great work that you're doing, and we believe the members of parliament have heard you from different parts of the world, different countries, and they will be working harder to ensure your insights feature in the workings of the parliament towards people with disabilities. And just to recognize the wording that is used by the United Arab Emirates, people with determination. Thank you so much. Thank you. Colleagues, that said, we will now go back to continue with the general debate for a few minutes, then we will go to the special accountability section. Okay, so among the few, we will first hear from Rwanda. Rwanda, please, you have the floor.
Your Excellency, Madam President of IPU, dear colleagues, good afternoon. On behalf of the Parliament of Rwanda, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to the Parliament of Türkiye for the successful organization of this assembly. Dear colleagues, 32 years ago, Rwanda endured the darkest chapter in its history, the genocide against the Tutsi. The country was about becoming a failed state. The hope for future generation seemed to be extinguished. However, with the visionary leadership, we embarked on a journey of rebuilding unity, peace, and justice. We embarked on the journey of building accountable and strong institutions and inclusive governance. We restored the rule of law and fostered democratic practices that focus on citizen participation. We recognized our national values as the guiding principles that define who we are. Traditional mechanisms were redesigned to provide homegrown solutions to our unique challenges. Rwanda has invested a lot in political and practical solutions that cemented stability and built on inclusive and united society. In the light of this, allow me to highlight only the following. The Education for All empowers youth with access to various opportunities in the country and abroad. Youth in Rwanda are among the leaders in the decision-making organs up to the parliament. Gender equality is becoming the norm. Men and women participate both in all instances of decision-making up to the parliament. In fact, 63.8% of MPs are female in our Chamber of Deputies. In this journey, the Parliament of Rwanda plays a critical role through its legislative function and oversight of government activities. Before I conclude, let's remind us as parliamentarians that we should ensure that government policies and programs are designed to advance peace, uphold justice, foster inclusiveness, and inspire hope for the current and future generation. Dear colleagues, to conclude, allow me to take this opportunity to put upright the statement made by the representative of DRC's parliament toward my country, Rwanda. One, I recall once again that there is an internal conflict between the government of DRC and the government and the movement called M23 AFC. And as a matter of fact, there are ongoing talks between Democratic Republic of Uganda government, of Congo government, and the M23 IFC, shifted from Qatar to Switzerland. The Washington Peace Agreement between Rwanda and DRC recognized DRC-backed FDLR as a threat to Rwanda. Therefore, DRC must dismantle FDLR, an armed group responsible for killing more than 1 million innocent people during the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994. Let's implement this Washington Peace Agreement instead of taking the precious time of this assembly. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Solin Nyirahabimana, the Vice President of the Senate of Rwanda. We thank you. And now we will listen from Madame Jash, who is representing Unite Parliamentarians Network for Global Health. You have the floor, Madame Jash.
Yes. Thank you, Madam President, Secretary General Chungong, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates. I'm honored to address you on behalf of Unite Parliamentarians Network for Global Health. We take this opportunity to extend special thanks to the IP leadership and the host government of Turkey for the remarkable organization of this assembly and for facilitating critically needed peace-building negotiations. Unite is the only network of current and former parliamentarians dedicated to evidence-based health policies, and we bring together 545 legislators from 120 countries. Allow me to focus on three major messages to this esteemed assembly. First, as parliamentarians, we have to secure sustainability of health financing both nationally and globally. COVID pandemic has reminded us that health challenges have no borders, and yet amidst the crisis and diminishing multilateralism, we see jeopardizing the hard-won gains in public health. As MPs, we have to prioritize the health of our populations in national budgets, and in high-income countries, as parliamentarians, we have to promote stronger investments in international development assistance for health that is at historic low. My second message is that we have to promote women-centered agenda both in parliaments and in global health. The evidence is clear. More women means greater democracies and stronger freedom of countries, yet only 27% of legislature seats are occupied by women. 66% of poorest women have financial barriers, and 20% of poorest women need permission to access life-saving essential health care. This is the status quo that we have to change. Finally, we have to learn from each other how better health policies save lives and bring economic gains to our societies. For example, we can learn from Egypt how to scale up universal health care and hepatitis C elimination, and I'm delighted to acknowledge Professor Ashraf Hatem, the former Minister of Health of Egypt, who drove those critically important changes. We can learn from Australia, United Kingdom, Qatar or Ireland how to save lives from sepsis, and we can promote artificial intelligence in health regulations and support national assemblies in ratification of pandemic agreement. We may not be doctors or public health experts, but we have unique power to save lives, both in times of peace and especially in times of crisis. And let me use this opportunity to extend welcome to Unite. Please join the Unite Network and join us in Philippines on August 2 and 4 for the Unite Global Parliamentarians Network. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Unite. Colleagues, we now go to the special accountability section or segment on the implementation of the IPU resolutions and other decisions. Colleagues, I would like to welcome you to the 8th edition of the special accountability segment of the general debate. This makes all of us, our parliaments, and this is the chance for you to share the Assembly decisions that have been taken and how you have worked on them throughout the world and how you have been able to translate those to national realities for the well-being of the people we represent. We need to implement the decisions we make here. We have a duty to align our actions with our words and translate IPU declarations, resolutions, and outcomes into national realities. This segment will deal with accountability on 3 priority areas. The first one is human rights as the IPU priority theme for 2026. The second one is youth participation in parliaments. And the third one is climate action to live in harmony with nature, the topic of our general debate. Before turning to these very important subjects or topics, I'd like to give the floor to the IPU Secretary General, who will present IPU's annual member reporting exercise. Mr. Secretary General, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you for that opportunity. This is one of the highlights of the Assembly because it helps us assess the accountability of our members to their organization. And indeed, accountability on all levels also means that member parliaments need to share details on results accomplished in follow-up to IPU decisions back to the organization. This is something that is provided for in the statutes of the organization, which require members to share details on implementing the decisions and resolutions they adopt during IPU assemblies and meetings. It is also something that is provided for in the strategy of the organization, which lays emphasis on accountability, the accountability of member parliaments to their organization. And to facilitate the process of establishing this accountability, each year a number of parliaments from each geopolitical group are designated to report and answer a questionnaire that the IPU Secretariat prepares and sends in March every year. Of course, all voluntary responses are most welcome. Based on these responses, the IPU Secretary General, that is for the time being myself, the IPU Secretary General prepares a report and presents it at the IPU October Assembly. Last year's annual report of the IPU Secretary General on action by members to implement IPU resolutions and decisions was a very comprehensive report. I would like to start by congratulating those members scheduled to report in 2025. On the screen, I believe the screen, yes, we do have that slide there. You can see the flags of all 38 IPU member parliaments that were invited to answer our survey between March and June. I am happy to inform you that for the third time in a row, for the third year in a row, the level of participation in this exercise is high, with a 76% response rate. By geopolitical groups, you'll see that one had 100% response rate, and the other 5 groups were in the range of 60 to 90%. But just to give you a taste of what our members are sharing with us, we have selected some good examples of actions taken by members as shown on the screen. You can see good practices from Spain on sustainability, Uzbekistan on the topic of freedom of religion, Chad on gender equality, Iraq on the impact of the work of the Committee on Human Rights of Parliamentarians, Uruguay on youth empowerment, and Vietnam on the issue of health. This year, the member parliaments whose flags are displayed now are scheduled to report by virtue of the rotational cycle established by the Governing Council years back. These members have already been invited to report and share their good practices, with us through our annual survey on the implementation of IPU outcomes, which was shared with them a couple of weeks ago. If you have not received our survey, you can download it by scanning this QR code. The QR code is there. The survey is also available online. We hope that all of these members will engage in this exercise and would really encourage responses with concrete examples of follow-up to IPU actions. Of course, as I said earlier, voluntary contributions are most welcome. Madam President, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary General. Colleagues, we first would turn to how parliaments are implementing our 2010 resolution on youth participation in the democratic process. One of the key tools we have to monitor progress is our report on youth participation in national parliaments, which we launched last week. To shed more light on this and to introduce the report's findings, I am pleased to give the floor again to the Secretary General, who will be followed by the report's author, Professor Devin Josh, and the President of the Bureau of, you want her to go first? Oh, okay. And the President of the Bureau of Young Parliamentarians. So in that order, we will begin with you, Martin.
Thank you once again, Madam President. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go back to, I'll rewind the clock to 15 years ago. And then that was when we started something that was to change this organization. It is the origin of the youth movement in the IPU. At that time, young people in many countries were expressing frustration that their voices were missing from politics. We all shared a sense of urgency that youth were too often being excluded and that this needed to change. You shared a vision, I say you, your predecessors at the time, you shared a vision of a future where youth are heard loud and clear for decision making. You can see some of those voices on the screens before you today. In response, in 2010, you adopted a resolution on youth in the democratic process. I remember those moments very clearly because, yes, at the time I was not yet Secretary General. I was Secretary of the committee that designed that resolution way back in 2010. And that was in Bangkok, Thailand. That is why I continue to hold that Bangkok is the birthplace of our youth movement in the IPU. Yes, at the time, that resolution allowed IPU member parliaments to clearly reaffirm their commitment to enhance the participation of young people. This resolution led to many successful initiatives, including the Forum of Young Parliamentarians. I sit here in the company of a distinguished young parliamentarian who is a manifestation of how far we have come. In those days, you would not see any young people on this podium. You just see middle-aged men and women sitting here and speaking on behalf of youth without the youth being there. So today we have a full-fledged president of the Bureau of Young Parliamentarians, my very good friend, Noor. Thank you very much for joining us here. We are very pleased that you're here and you're helping your colleagues to work with us to try to make that forum one that allows the IPU to be the global authority on youth empowerment in Parliament. Indeed, you have helped us, and today I think we have the chair or the consultant who is with us, who is going to brief us on the work that we have done to shed light on the representation of youth in parliaments. The data that we have been collecting over this past 16 years has been used not only by us, the parliamentary community, but also by the United Nations and many other stakeholders who are working to improve upon youth empowerment. And it has been used and has led to the creation of an accountability, a key accountability instrument to help parliaments measure progress in implementing the commitments made in the 2010 resolution. All of this data is then compiled in our reports, and you'll hear about the most recent reports in a moment, and those reports deal with youth participation in Parliament. And today, I am told that we're going to launch the 6th edition of that report, if I'm not mistaken. So, where are we now? Let me give you a sneak preview before our colleague comes in. After years of gradual growth in the numbers of MPs aged 30 and 40 and under, I regret to say that in the last couple of years, progress has stalled. Only 2.8% of MPs are under 30 years of age or under. This is the same proportion as we saw back in 2023. Only 19% of members of parliament are 40 and under. Only a 0.2 percentage point increase since 2023. These figures should be of concern to all of us. To better understand what is driving these trends, this report went directly to the source, the voices of young MPs themselves. Professor Devin Josh helped us to lead this research, as you have just said, Madam President, and we'll be hearing from him in a moment. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Professor Josh, please.
Yes, thank you. And can we just see if you are a member of parliament who are in between the ages of 18 and 40, can you please stand up? Members of parliament between the ages of 18 and 40. It's wonderful that you're here with us. Okay, you may sit down. Thank you for standing up. As our Secretary General has just informed us, the numbers of youth in Parliament have stagnated in the last 2 years. We have a situation where almost 2/3 of the world's population is under the age of 40, but only 19% of MPs in national parliaments are age 40 or younger. And for age 30 and younger, that makes up about half of the world's population. But less than 3% of our MPs in national parliaments are under the age of 30. So we have a lot of work to do so that we can bring in the majority of the world's population to be directly representatives in our national parliaments. Now, the good news is that over 60 of you, young members of parliament, came and joined us for interviews and told us your views on what is working and what can be done to increase youth participation in national parliaments. And there are 7 things that you mentioned. The first is to lower the age of eligibility to be an MP to 18 years old or to an age lower than what it is now. In some countries, the age of eligibility is even 17 years old. If you align the age of eligibility with the age of voting, then it makes it easier for everyone to remember and more young people have a space to enter into Parliament. Secondly, our report this year found that in the 14 chambers which practice term limits, limiting MPs to no more than 1, 2, 3, or 4 consecutive terms before having to sit out for a session, the percentage of young members of parliament is significantly higher, almost double the global average for 30 and under, and about 50% higher for those 40 and under. Thirdly, youth quotas for candidates who are under age 40. There are 16 chambers that have youth quotas currently, and in places like Gabon, and is Gabon here? 20% of the candidates must be age 40 or younger. In Algeria, is Algeria here? In Algeria, 50% of the candidates must be age 40 or younger. Okay, the fourth one is to increase the participation of youth in the membership and in the leadership of political parties. 5, to eliminate violence, discrimination, harassment, and attacks against young members of parliament and young candidates, and especially young women members of parliament and young women candidates. The sixth one was to switch to multi-member district proportional representation elections. If there are multiple people elected in a district, it gives parties a chance to diversify the ages of the candidates to include both older and younger candidates. And then lastly, to adopt laws that make it easy or easier to form new political parties and to allow independent candidates to contest elections and enter parliament. We found that newer political parties, those formed in the last 5 to 10 years, had a much higher share of young candidates and young MPs in their parliamentary delegations. So the final point I'm going to make to you is that you can continue to contribute to our efforts to improve accountability and youth representation. And we have interviewed young MPs from 53 countries so far. That means we still have over 100 countries that we still need to talk to. So please do come talk to me after the session, or talk to Noor, our president, and we will bring you on board for an interview and learn more about what's helping to improve youth participation in your parliament. Also, what are some of the obstacles? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Noor, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Devin, for this hard-working efforts to bring this work to life. In this report, we also zoomed in on the situation of young women. It showed alarming result. Only 1.2% of MPs are young women aged under 30. This is a 0.2 percentage point drop since 2023, and only 6.9% of MPs are young women aged 40 and under, a full percentage point decrease. This is the first time we have seen decline since the IPU began collecting this data. The reports, interviews help us understand why this may be happening. First, a growing limit is violence and intimidation faced by MPs, especially online. All MPs are targeted, but young women often face the worst of it. Another thing is harmful social norms. Too many of us have been told or made to feel that politics is not for us, or that our abilities are questioned. A third is that many parliaments are too often still not suitable workplaces for young parents, especially young mothers. Colleagues, we are launching this report in the responsibility for good reasons. We as MPs made these commitments in 2010. We are responsible for delivering on them. It is up to us to reverse these trends and get things back on track. The good news is that this report contains many of answers that can get us there. Some are found among commitments of I Say Yes for Youth in Parliament campaign. Over 1,000 MPs have signed up. Now we must double down on effort to implement these compliments. The report also points to another solutions, including better using politics parties to open doors for young candidates, reforming campaign finance rules to increase access, and bringing more political education to schools to inspire knowledge and interest. Allow me to close this with a well-known saying, if not us, who? If not now, when? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Noor, the President of the Bureau of Young Parliamentarians. Colleagues, as part of this accountability segment, I'm now pleased to give the floor from your seats to 3 delegations who will be addressing us for 2 minutes each. And they will be telling us about their own experiences on why this backslide may be happening and how best to address it. So I would request that we all pay attention to each other so that these experiences can be emulated in our respective countries. So first we will begin with Uruguay, followed by Namibia. Uruguay, you have the floor for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. It's an honor for us to be addressing this assembly. English is not our native language, but I think it will provide us better understanding and less translation, so we'll do our best. As John F. Kennedy used to say, change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future. I speak today as a member of Uruguay's parliament, a country proud of its democratic tradition, institutional strength, and commitment to rights and freedom. But even strong democracies must confront their own contradictions. In Uruguay, the proportion of young parliamentarians has declined in recent years, and the trend reflects something deeper, a political culture that too often overvalues gray hair and undervalues new energy. Experience matters, of course it does, but when experience becomes a gate instead of a guide, democracy begins to age faster than its people. It's not only as an observer, but from personal experience that I say this. I was presidential candidate in my country at the age of 40. I won my party's primaries. I earned the support of a lot of people, and I was later elected for the Senate. And yet, along the way, I repeatedly encountered the same unspoken barrier. It's not your time yet. So, not because of ideas, not because of merit, but because of age. This is one of the central challenges we face. First, institutional inertia. Seniority is always or often confused with legitimacy. Barriers to entry, economic, political, that make young people's participation harder in every way possible. And as a third, a cultural bias that confuses leadership with the years you've lived. So rather than the value you created along your way. But there's also a reason for optimism here. Uruguay has taken steps forward in this, has strengthened youth political training, it's fostering cross-party youth engagement, it's opening new channels for participation beyond elections, and there's also experiences that show that young people can do it very well. Our last president was young, he was under 50, and that for Uruguay is a big thing. And also, the task ahead is also clear. We must move from symbolic inclusion to real access, try to reform party structures, expand mentorship, ensure that youth participation is measurable, not rhetorical.
Please conclude.
Yes. If we want democracies to be truly representative, we must ensure that they are not only wise, but also young enough to understand the future that they are shaping. Renewal is moving forward, and we are all in for the future. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Colleagues, we will now hear from Namibia, followed by Norway. Namibia, you have the floor.
Thank
2
you.
minutes.
Dr. Tulia Axen, President of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, distinguished parliamentarians, Mr. Martin Shungon, Secretary General of the Inter-Parliamentary Union, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinguished honor to address this distinguished assembly on behalf of the Parliament of the Republic of Namibia. Firstly, allow me to thank the government of the Republic of Turkey for the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, as well as the people of this great nation for their gracious hospitality. My country, Namibia, comes to this assembly with pride, pride in our young people, pride in the inclusivity that we have built at the levels of governance and leadership. I stand here not only to highlight our achievement, but to affirm our political choice, that Namibia chose to open space for young people in decision-making, and we have protected that choice. Namibia is home to young parliamentarians who have risen to leadership roles such as deputy speakers, ministers, and deputy ministers. Among them here today is the leader of the Namibian delegation to this distinguished gathering, our vice chairperson and deputy speaker in other jurisdictions, and former member of the Bureau of Young Parliamentarians, Honorable Emma Muteka, who is celebrating her 36th birthday today. Happy birthday, Vice President. Our Parliament champions inclusivity and youth participation through initiatives such as the Children's Parliament and the Junior National Council, platforms that prepare the next generations of leaders and help bring issues affecting the youth to national level. Our engagement with IPU Young Parliamentarians program has further strengthened the skills of those already serving at these levels. Most recently, in March, our Parliament, in collaboration with IPUs, held a training on leadership, mentorship, and communication for young parliamentarians.
Please conclude.
Which focused on enhancing the skills of young MPs to improve policies and youth representation. We trust that this training will bridge the gap in parliamentary decision-making. Despite this achievement, challenges remain. Our parliamentarians continue to call for reform regarding support, mentorship, institutional resources to sustain their contribution, while young parliamentarians in rural areas bring efforts to their issues to national agenda. With this proposed the enrichment of young parliamentarian caucus and call for better collaboration and cooperation between the young caucus of IPU.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Norway, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for giving me the floor. And I would like to start by echoing the previous speakers by stressing the fact that to be truly representative as democracies, diverse voices have to be included in decision-making. To make sure that young people get to represent, not just to be represented, there has to be a culture of youth participation. There are, of course, different ways to ensure such participation. One way is to make legislative changes that set standards or requirements such as quotas. But as we know quite well, amending legislation can be a lengthy process. But luckily, there are steps to be taken that don't require us to wait for change to happen. It can be started right away. I've been asked to talk about why Norway is able to consistently have a high proportion of young parliamentarians. This, I would argue, is very much due to our strong culture of youth politics. Several of today's top politicians have a background in the bodies of youth parties. I use youth politics as a collective term for political activity among young people, both organized and unorganized, and in Norway from about the ages of 13 up until 25, but never higher than 30. All political parties in Norway have a youth party. It is important to stress that they are not youth wings, but fully independent organizations, only affiliated with the parent parties. Although the youth parties function as a recruitment and training arena for parent parties, they are completely independent and autonomous in the sense that they dictate their own statutes, make their own policy priorities, and the parent parties have no influence over any priority, including who is to be elected for positions. They also receive independent funding. Youth politics in Norway offers an entry point into politics that gives youth the possibility to learn about politics and develop skills in an environment that they themselves control, and also is more forgiving than what politics too often is. But the most important point to underline is that it offers real impact. Through the youth organizations, they put forward candidates for election, they influence policy in parent parties, and they are represented in executive boards and committees within parent parties. And as an example, leading up to elections, youth party leaders even have their own televised debates. I myself was elected in Parliament in 2017 as a 26-year-old, as an official youth candidate. Having the backing of the youth party parachuted me into national politics, and in the middle of a field of better-known candidates, I was able to succeed.
Please
and
conclude.
In no way unique. At our election this fall, the youngest elected MP is 19 years old. There are many other aspects I would like to mention here today, and I would welcome anyone to talk to me that are interested in learning about our culture, but I truly believe to foster a great culture for youth politics is what we need to have more young representatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, colleagues, for the insights that you have just shared. I encourage all of you, all of us, including myself, to read this report and listen to the voices of the young members of parliament who have contributed to that report and help ensure that we fulfill the promises made when this movement began 16 years ago. It is time to bring back the sense of urgency we had back then, and probably do away with the sentiments such as, "It's not your time yet." Colleagues, we now move to the second issue, which is parliamentary action to safeguard human rights. During our last assembly, we decided to choose human rights as our priority theme for 2026. Indeed, human rights are at the bedrock of our democratic societies. IPU's work in this area focuses on fostering strong parliamentary input and follow up the United Nations human rights mechanisms, processes, and recommendations. We also encourage parliaments to ratify and implement specific United Nations human rights treaties, those who haven't done so. The IPU also monitors the work of parliamentary human rights committees, carries out capacity building activities with a view to strengthening their capacity to advance human rights, and provides them with an international platform to share experiences and discuss common challenges. In this context, the IPU is keen to continue highlighting the key role that parliaments can play in protecting and promoting human rights worldwide. Reflecting the 2026 IPU priority theme, I am pleased to give the floor to selected members that will report on parliamentary measures undertaken to strengthen the promotion and protection of human rights, including those in our resolutions, as well as best practices regarding the engagement with the United Nations human rights mechanisms and follow-up to recommendations, especially the Universal Periodic Review of the Human Rights Council and the United Nations Human Rights Treaty bodies. Colleagues, I'm going to give the floor now to Chad 2 minutes. You will address us from your seat. Will be followed by Ghana, 2 minutes. Chad, you have the floor.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Madame la Présidente, le Tchad réaffirme son attachement aux valeurs universelles des droits de l'homme consacrées à la Déclaration universelle du 10 décembre 1948, transposée dans son corpus juridique national. Madame la Présidente, depuis son affiliation à l'IIP, le Tchad, en 2008, les efforts du Parlement du Tchad en matière de promotion et de protection des droits de l'homme s'inscrivent dans ses fonctions législatives de contrôle et de représentation sur le plan institutionnel. Le Parlement tchadien a créé des organes internes dédiés aux droits humains, notamment à la Commission politique générale, institutions, lois fondamentales et libertés, qui traite directement des questions liées aux droits de l'homme et aux libertés fondamentales. Dans sa fonction législative, le Parlement du Tchad a adopté les lois encadrant les libertés politiques, les droits fondamentaux et voté des textes relatifs aux élections, à la justice et aux droits civiques. Toutes les déclarations et les résolutions adoptées en matière de droits de l'homme par l'IIP ont été communiquées à tous les membres de notre Parlement. L'objectif est de signifier aux parlementaires l'impérieuse nécessité de défendre et promouvoir le respect du droit international humanitaire et de soutenir l'action humanitaire et des droits de l'homme. Le Parlement du Tchad a organisé au cours de l'année 2025 un atelier portant sur le thème « La promotion et protection des droits de l'homme, le rôle du Parlement du Tchad ». Le Parlement du Tchad travaille avec la Commission nationale des droits de l'homme, CNDH, institution indépendante chargée de promouvoir et protéger les droits humains devenus organe institutionnel dans la Constitution. À ce titre, au cours de l'examen périodique universel et pays du Tchad par le Conseil des droits de l'homme de l'ONU à Genève, dont le quatrième cycle en cours a été évalué en 2025, dont plus de 234 recommandations ont été acceptées. La situation des droits humains a connu une amélioration significative marquée par des progrès institutionnels et législatifs importants, notamment par l'adoption du code pénal, du code de procédure pénale, ainsi que des lois spécifiques contre les traites des personnes, l'asile, l'interdiction du mariage des enfants, la lutte contre la violence à l'égard des femmes, l'abolition de la peine de mort. Madame la Présidente, le Parlement a adopté une loi imposant un quota d'au moins 30% des femmes dans les fonctions législatives et nominatives, traduisant une mise en œuvre progressive des mesures pour promouvoir l'égalité des sexes et mettre en œuvre les actions de la campagne de l'UIP intitulée « Atteindre l'égalité des sexes, action par action ». Le Tchad s'est inscrit dans la dynamique selon laquelle...
Please conclude.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Pour conclure, notre Parlement a pris des mesures pour renforcer la participation des jeunes à la vie politique. Tous les Tchadiens des sexes âgés de 25 ans révolus peuvent se présenter aux élections législatives. Madame la Présidente, malgré les défis, le Tchad poursuit résolument ses réformes en veillant à l'appropriation des résolutions de l'IP pour consolider l'état des droits, renforcer l'accès à la justice et garantir la dignité de chaque citoyen. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. Ghana, 2 minutes, will be followed by San Marino. Ghana, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Ghana deeply values its membership of the IPU and remains actively engaged with international human rights mechanisms, including the Universal Periodic Review. We are proud of the commendations that we have received since the November 2022 UPR, especially the recognition of our modest efforts on gender equality, child protection, and legislative reform. Allow me to briefly highlight a few of these efforts. In the recent past, Ghana has enacted the Code of Conduct for Public Officers, passed the affirmative action laws, strengthened the legal framework for universal and free birth registration, passed the social protection law to safeguard the rights of vulnerable persons, initiated the legislation to criminalize witchcraft accusation against women, and amend the Criminal Offences Act to abolish the death penalty. Parliament further amended the Criminal Code to abolish cultural practices that subject young girls to gender-based violence, enslavement, sexual exploitation, forced labor, torture, and inhuman and degrading treatment. The amendment further prohibited the customary practice of child, early and forced marriage or betrothal. Ghana's parliament also created a new committee on human rights, the first of its kind in Ghana's history, while a new human rights unit has been established within the parliamentary service. Stakeholders' consultation has been institutionalized to enhance coordination with human rights NGOs and state agencies. And with support from IPU and various partner organizations, we hosted our first Human and Children Rights Conference in June last year. In conclusion, I wish to express Ghana's sincere appreciation to the IPU for its continuous partnership and support. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. San Marino, 2 minutes.
Madame la Présidente, collègues, je suis honorée de prendre la parole au nom du groupe de Saint-Marin. J'ai saisi cette occasion pour partager avec vous un bout d'ensemble de la trajectoire suivie par Saint-Marin en matière de respect des droits humains. Ces dernières années, les protections des droits humains ont acquis une centralité encore plus forte car ces objectifs ne s'alignent pas seulement sur les standards internationaux, mais constituent également un pilier fondamental sur lequel reposent les relations avec l'Union européenne. Depuis 2019, même à la suite des recommandations qui nous ont été adressées, la République de Saint-Marin est intervenue de manière significative dans les domaines de la protection des droits humains en ratifiant un grand nombre d'instruments internationaux, mais aussi en adoptant des mesures législatives appropriées en mettant en œuvre de bonnes pratiques. Parmi les plus importants, on peut citer la loi réglementant les unions civiles, réglementation de l'interruption volontaire de grossesse, l'instance d'Arengo approuvée le 18 mars 2024 pour l'institution d'un garant national des droits humains, loi sur les droits à l'oubli oncologique, la modification du code pénal concernant l'introduction du délit de harcèlement sexuel. La République de Saint-Marin a ratifié en 2003 la Convention sur l'élimination de toutes les formes de discrimination à l'égard des femmes et a adhéré à son protocole facultatif en 2005. En 2024, Saint-Marin a soumis ses réponses écrites au questionnaire concernant les mesures adoptées par sa mise en œuvre. Tous les ministères compétents ont été impliqués dans la préparation de ces rapports, ainsi que les associations présentes sur le territoire, invitées à contribuer aux initiatives à mettre en place. En juin 2025, ce rapport a été examiné devant la commission CEDAW. À l'issue de cet examen, la commission a formulé des recommandations visant à renforcer davantage la mise en œuvre de la Convention dans le contexte national. Les observations finales et recommandations formulées par la Commission ont été portées à connaissance du Parlement, de l'administration et du système judiciaire, afin de promouvoir une pleine prise de conscience et d'aboutir aux modifications nécessaires dans notre ordre juridique. La voie empruntée est donc certainement la bonne, mais elle nécessite d'une attention constante et d'ajustement continu, car les formes de discrimination à l'égard des femmes ne sont pas seulement jamais éteintes, mais présentent de nouvelles manifestations et donc de nouveaux dangers. De plus, les représentations féminines aux autres niveaux des institutions restent encore très limitées, ce qui n'aide pas. Merci.
Thank you so much, San Marino. Colleagues, we go to now the third section, which is parliamentary action to tackle climate change and to live in harmony with nature. Colleagues, this year the IPU is proud to have partnered with the World Future Council to present its World Future Policy Award, which highlights outstanding policy solutions that serve both present and future generations. The award aims to raise global awareness of exemplary laws and policies, helping to accelerate policy action toward a more sustainable and just future. Last year's World Future Policy Award recognized bold and forward-looking policies on living with harmony and future generation. So, as part of this accountability segment, which seeks to highlight good practices from around the world, we will be sharing some of these policies with you. I am pleased to give the floor to delegations with award-winning policies, who will briefly introduce it and then play videos. This is also equally important, dear colleagues, so that we learn from each other and see how our respective policies and laws can change in our respective countries to make sure this goes well. So we have here, we will begin with Bhutan. Bhutan will have a 1-minute presentation and will show us a video. Bhutan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Madam Chair, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I bring warm greetings from His Majesty the King and the Parliament of Bhutan. It is my privilege to present Bhutan's Biodiversity Act 2022, recently recognized with the World Future Policy Award 2025. We deeply appreciate this honor, which reaffirms our commitment to biodiversity conservation and sustainable development. Bhutan, though small, is proud to be carbon negative with over 70% forest cover and more than half our land under protection. Guided by our philosophy of gross national happiness, we place environmental conservation at the heart of our development. The Biodiversity Act 2022 provides a strong framework for conservation, sustainable use, and equitable benefit sharing while recognizing community rights, gender mainstreaming, and traditional knowledge. This award validates our belief that conservation and development go hand in hand. As global diversity faces increasing threat, Bhutan remains committed to sharing our experiences and working collectively towards a sustainable future. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Now we will move to the video for Bhutan.
In the heart of the Himalayas, Bhutan has taken a bold step to protect life itself. The Bhutan Biodiversity Act responds to land conversion, overharvesting, and biopiracy in one of the world's most biologically diverse countries. Deeply rooted in Bhutan's Buddhist worldview, the Act formalizes centuries of respect for all life and embraces spiritual principles such as compassion, karma, and interdependence.
Bhutan development is guided by the philosophy of gross national happiness, which measures progress not only in terms of material wealth, but by balancing economic growth with environmental conservation. We value people, nature, and spiritual well-being equally with the economy.
The Act conserves Bhutan's biological and genetic resources. Today, more than half the country's land is protected, and iconic species like the Royal Bengal tiger are recovering. Both traditional knowledge and farmers' and breeders' rights are protected by the Act. And, through equitable benefit sharing, local and indigenous communities are empowered to innovate while improving livelihoods. Bhutan's Biodiversity Act, as a legally grounded and culturally rooted model, supports living in harmony with nature and is well suited for replication in other biodiversity-rich countries.
Thank you so much, Bhutan. Now we move to South Africa, 1-minute address, and then we will look at the video. South Africa, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It is indeed an honor for me to present the National Environment Management Biodiversity Act of South Africa. This is the act that is the winner of the World Future Policy Award in 2025. The National Environment Management Biodiversity Act is a pioneering law that protects one of the world's richest natural heritages, establishing the legal framework for conserving South Africa's exceptional biodiversity, spanning around 95,000 described species across 9 terrestrial biomes. Grounded in the constitutional right to a healthy environment, it ensures intergenerational equity through a science-based governance system, safeguarding biodiversity for present and future generations. The Act introduces key institutional and regulatory mechanisms alongside tools such as national frameworks, bioregional planning, and biodiversity management plans. Significantly, this Act aligns national action with international commitments, including the conservation on biological diversity and the Convention on International Trade and Endangered Species of the Wild Flora and Fauna. This rights-based model of biodiversity governance offers global inspiration, and we encourage the International Parliamentary Committee to take note and develop and oversee the implementation of similar forward-looking legislation. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Our video.
South Africa is a biodiversity hotspot, one of only 17 mega-diverse countries on Earth. Yet, its natural world faces grave challenges, with 80% of ecosystems under threat and 60% of coastal habitats endangered. The National Environmental Management Biodiversity Act, or NEMBA, adopted in 2004, is one of the world's most ambitious biodiversity frameworks.
South Africans have a constitutional right to an ecological, healthy environment, which means everyone, including myself, has the right to a clean, safe, and healthy ecosystem.
NEMBA protects ecosystems, species, and genetic diversity while promoting equitable benefit sharing for communities. It recognizes indigenous knowledge and traditions and empowers citizens and businesses as custodians of the natural world.
For me, it means being mindful of my choices and actions in relation to the future generation. They deserve to inherit a South Africa where ecosystems thrive and natural resources are protected and restored. Thank you.
NEMBA could become a global model for rights-based biodiversity governance for current and future generations.
Thank you so much, South Africa. Now we move to Spain. 1 minute address and a video. Spain, you have the floor.
Buenas tardes, queridos colegas, querida presidenta. Para España es un gran honor poder estar aquí hoy compartiendo con todos y todas ustedes esta experiencia legislativa en mi país. España ha experimentado grandes avances en materia de protección medioambiental y fruto de ello nacen estas dos leyes. En 2021 nace la Ley de Cambio Climático y Transición Energética, que tiene como un objetivo claro la reducción de emisiones de gases de efecto invernadero, la prohibición de nuevas explotaciones de hidrocarburo, el impulso de las energías renovables y el fomento de la movilidad sostenible. Y esta ley que vamos a ver hoy aquí, la Ley 19/2022, es otro de los ejemplos. Es una ley que tiene un gran enfoque innovador, reconociendo una personalidad jurídica a una laguna con gran valor natural y un ecosistema bastante frágil, y la queremos dotar de mayor protección. En España tenemos muy claro y tenemos muy presente que la justicia intergeneracional es ineludible y por ello, además de todo esto, tenemos que poner, además de legislar, tenemos que poner en práctica toda esta legislación. Muchas gracias, queridos colegas.
One of Europe's largest coastal lagoons, the Mar Menor, has suffered decades of pollution and mismanagement from agriculture, mining, and mass tourism. Its ecosystem collapsed, with algal blooms suffocating millions of fish. But citizens took action. Guided by legal scholar Teresa Vicente, they launched a people-led initiative gathering over 640,000 signatures to demand protection for the lagoon. In 2022, their fight made history. Spain became the first country in Europe to grant an ecosystem legal personhood, the Mar Menor and its basin now has enforceable rights to exist, to be restored, and to be defended in court.
Se necesita una justicia más amplia que la justicia social, que reconozca la interacción del ser humano con la naturaleza y el valor de esta para ser portadora de derechos.
Now grounded in the Spanish Constitution, Law 19/2022 shows that Western legal systems can accommodate non-human rights without fundamental disruption, offering an inspiring model with real potential for replication. And all this began with one woman's courage to give nature a voice, showing us how vision and determination can spark a paradigm shift for generations to come.
Thank you so much, colleagues. The interventions will continue from the floor, and the Speaker of DRC is going to take over to come as the President of the Assembly and continue with the rest. But as we wait for him to come forward, I'm going to call on the Mr. Samia Suleiman, who is the Speaker of the Parliament of Malawi. 2 minutes. The Speaker of Malawi? Okay.
It's not yet in, Madam Chairperson.
Okay. Mr. Mevlut Karakaya from Türkiye.
Yes, thank you. Ms. President, dear parliamentarians, it is a great honor for us to host the 152nd Assembly of the IPU and to welcome you to Istanbul. At the outset, allow me to underline that I consider the IPU's accountability segments highly meaningful. They remind us of a fundamental question: do our decisions truly translate into impact on the ground? On climate change, this is no longer a choice, but a necessity. The issue is not only setting targets, but ensuring their effective implementation. As Türkiye, we act with this sense of responsibility. Within the framework of Paris Agreement, we support our 2053 net zero emissions target with concrete steps. Through our climate law, we address emissions reduction, adaptation, and green finance in a comprehensive manner. Recognizing that climate action goes beyond energy policies, we are also transforming our relationship with nature. We prioritize nature-based solutions and continue to expand our forest assets. Our forests absorb approximately 45 million tons of carbon dioxide annually, a tangible indicator of these efforts. Dear parliamentarians, parliaments are not merely part of this process. They are its driving force. Through our legislative and oversight roles, we must ensure this transformation is real. Accountability is not only about reporting, it is about responsibility. Looking ahead, we will accelerate the transition away from fossil fuels and increase investments in renewable energy. We also aim to make COP31 in Antalya in this year an implementation COP focused on concrete action and strong partnership. Ultimately, climate change concerns our shared future. With this awareness, I extend my respectful greetings to all of you. Thank you.
À présent, le tour du Canada. Canada, vous avez le micro.
Fellow parliamentarians,
I'm honored to share how the Parliament of Canada is enhancing youth participation. To answer the question from the panel earlier about youth, I may not be between the ages of 18 and 40, but I look like I'm between the ages of 18 and 40. That's a joke. As we all know, we cannot underestimate the power of youth in contributing to meaningful societal change and protecting democracy. As parliamentarians, we can ensure that parliamentary committees' studies include youth voices, and in Canada, we have. In Canada, young people can get more immersive experience in Parliament by hired by our young student page programs. Being involved in the daily functioning of Parliament as a page offers a unique chance to see democracy up close. Members of Parliament can also host interns through internship programs for recent graduates. Interns are enrolled as graduate students and receive a scholarship. This is a nonpartisan opportunity that includes placements with both a government and an opposition MP alongside other learning opportunities focused on Parliament. The Parliament of Canada also provides resources to teachers who want to further their students' civic engagement. For instance, they can bring their students to Parliament for a guided tour. Also, teachers can enhance their own learning through the Parliament of Canada's Teacher Institute, where teachers come from across Canada to meet with parliamentarians and learn from experts about student engagement with democracy. But there are also opportunities for parliamentarians to bring democracy right into the classrooms, such as the Senate S-Engage program, where a school can visit, request and visit from a senator, which I have in myself done. I am immensely proud of the work Canada's Parliament is undertaking to engage youth, but I know that we could be doing more. For that reason, we are keen to hear the other parliamentary approaches to this crucial aspect of democracy. Thank you for listening.
Présent, c'est au tour de l'intervention du Thaïlande.
Honorable Chair, dear colleagues, the Thai Parliament aligns its climate actions with the strategic priorities of the IPU. We believe in the power of parliaments to transform global commitments into concrete policies, strong legislation, and real results. And we are committed to lead by example. The Thai Parliament has started the Green Parliament project, aiming to become net zero by 2032. We are improving how we manage energy, waste, and resources under Green Office standards. On the executive side, our new government has also set a clear path to net zero by 2050 through green economy, focusing on 5 priorities, which as an MP I fully support. First, green agriculture, by promoting low carbon farming, reducing crop burning to tackle air pollution, and supporting better land use. Second, green energy, by expanding renewable energy, smart grids, and encouraging both communities and the private sector in clean energy production. Third, green transport, by speeding up the use of electric vehicles and improving public transportation system. Fourth, green standards, by developing carbon markets, promoting green finance, and pushing related laws, such as the Climate Change Act, to serve as a key tool for systematic management. Fifth, green space, by protecting and restoring and expanding our green and blue areas to increase our capacity to absorb greenhouse gases. At the same time, Thailand is strengthening climate resilience, better disaster prevention, early warning system, and water management to cope with the ongoing climate crisis. Dear colleagues, Thailand is working with strong commitment to transition to a green economy and improve our climate adaptation. We stand ready to work with all of you to build a more sustainable for all of us. Thank you.
À présent, la parole à l'Algérie.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. سيد الرئيس لو سمحت لي عندي بإيجاز تدخل في 3 نقاط. يؤكد البرلمان الجزائري أن تنفيذ قرارات وتوصيات الاتحاد البرلماني الدولي يمثل التزاماً إجرائياً يندرج ضمن رؤية وطنية التي تعتبر أن البرلمانات مطالبة بالانتقال من دور المتابعة إلى دور المبادرة في تحويل القرارات الدولية إلى سياسات عمومية وتشريعات مؤثرة تستجيب لتطلعات الشعوب، حيث يحرص البرلمان الجزائري على إدماج مخرجات اجتماعات الاتحاد ضمن مسارات عمله التشريعي والرقابي، كما يعمل على إحاطة الدوائر الحكومية المعنية بها بما يعزز آثارها التنفيذي ويكرس انسجام السياسات الوطنية مع أولويات الاتحاد. أما ما يتعلق بالشباب والمرأة، يعتبر البرلمان الجزائري أن تمكين المرأة والشباب يشكل ركيزة أساسية لتجديد العمل السياسي وتعزيز استدامة المؤسسات الديمقراطية، وقد تم إنشاء الشبكة البرلمانية للشباب التي تضم 92 عضواً من أصل 407 نائب، منهم 11 امرأة، وقد اعتمدت هذه الشبكة برنامجاً عملياً يرتكز على المشاركة السياسية، الإعلام والمقاولاتية، العمل المجتمعي والدبلوماسية البرلمانية، بما يعزز حضور الشباب وخاصة الشابات في مسارات صنع القرار. كما بادر البرلمان الجزائري إلى تنصيب برلمان للطفل للعهدة التشريعية الحالية في خطوة تعكس رؤية استشرافية تهدف إلى إعداد جيل واع بثقافة المواطنة والمشاركة الديمقراطية. وعلى المستوى التشريعي، صادق البرلمان الجزائري على قانون الانتخابات الذي يلزم الأحزاب السياسية بتخصيص ما لا يقل عن نصف الترشيحات لفائدة الشباب دون 40 سنة، انسجاما مع التوجهات الحديثة للاتحاد البرلماني الدولي. كما صادق على قانون الأحزاب السياسية الذي يكرس ترقية الحقوق السياسية للمرأة والشباب وتعزيز مشاركتهما في مختلف الهياكل القيادية الوطنية والمحلية. أما فيما يتعلق بدعم حقوق الإنسان، يواصل البرلمان الجزائري تعزيز منظومة حقوق الإنسان في انسجام مع الالتزامات الدولية، ومنها الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان، والذي يقر في مادته الأولى على أن جميع الناس يولدون أحرار ومتساويين في الكرامة والحقوق، حيث صادق البرلمان الجزائري في أفريل 2026 على قانون تجريم الاستعمار، تأكيدا لالتزام الجزائر بالدفاع عن كرامة الشعوب وترسيخ العدالة التاريخية باعتبارها جزءا لا يتجزأ من منظومة حقوق الإنسان المعاصرة. وفيما يتعلق بالتغيرات المناخية، البرلمان الجزائري مبادرة أنشأ البرلمانية للبيئة والمناخ شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Merci beaucoup. On va passer la parole au Portugal et l'Ukraine va se préparer. Portugal, vous avez la parole.
Senhora Presidente, caros colegas, é com muito gosto que intervenho neste segmento especial de responsabilização da ação parlamentar para reforçar a participação dos jovens, para partilhar uma prática da Assembleia da República Portuguesa que considero especialmente relevante, o Programa Parlamento dos Jovens. Mais do que uma iniciativa de educação cívica, este programa é um verdadeiro exercício de aproximação entre o Parlamento e os jovens. É uma forma concreta de mostrar que a democracia representativa não se esgota no voto periódico, constrói-se também através da participação, do debate, da escuta e da aprendizagem das regras da deliberação democrática. O programa existe desde 1995, consolidou-se e reforçou-se ao longo do tempo e organiza-se em 3 níveis sucessivos de representação. Primeiro, na própria escola, onde os alunos formam listas, fazem campanha, participam em debates, vão a eleições e realizam uma sessão escolar. É aí que aprovam um projeto de recomendação e elegem os representantes que seguem para a fase seguinte. Depois, ao nível distrital ou regional, reúnem-se os alunos eleitos de cada círculo, debatem novamente propostas, aprovam um projeto de recomendação do círculo e elegem deputados jovens que representarão esse território na fase nacional. Por fim, na sessão nacional da Assembleia da República, os jovens reúnem-se em comissões e em plenário, discutem, negociam, votam e aprovam a recomendação final. Ou seja, o percurso até o Parlamento reproduz em escala pedagógica a própria lógica de representação política da base até o centro de decisão democrática. Há ainda um elemento muito importante. Os deputados da Assembleia da República são chamados a participar neste processo, nomeadamente nas sessões distritais e regionais e também em debates com as escolas, contribuindo para aproximar os alunos do Parlamento e para tornar mais concreto o contacto com a vida democrática e com o mandato parlamentar. Os grandes números também revelam a força desta prática. O programa já ultrapassou 1000 escolas inscritas em edições recentes e mobilizou só em 2024 mais de 216 mil votantes e, no geral, estima-se ter envolvido mais de 2,5 milhões de alunos desde a sua criação em 1995. Trata-se, portanto, de uma experiência de larga escala e com forte capilaridade territorial. O que esta dinâmica permite é muito valioso, uma aproximação real das escolas e dos alunos à Assembleia da República e ao reproduzir em vários níveis a prática legislativa, o debate em comissão, o plenário, a negociação e a votação, o Parlamento dos Jovens aproveita.
Je suis obligé de couper. Nous allons à présent passer la parole à l'Ukraine. On doit respecter les 2 minutes.
Dear Chair, dear colleagues, at a time when fundamental human rights are being systematically violated by the Russian Federation, an aggressor state waging terror against civilians and infrastructure, Ukraine's parliament stands as a pillar of protection, accountability and dignity for our people. We ensure strong oversight throughout the Ukrainian Parliament Commissioner for Human Rights and align our laws with international standards. And we give special protection to indigenous people and their culture, Crimean Tatars, expelled by Russia from their native land for their rejection of Russia's illegal occupation. We help Ukrainian children deported by Russia return to their families and reforming child care facilities. We have ratified the statute of the International Criminal Court and are creating a special tribunal for Russia's aggression and a claim commission so that every person whose home was destroyed by Russia could demand compensation. We have started paying compensations throughout our state programs and will claim these funds from Russia. We are assisting survivors of sexual violence in line with the Convention of the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. This winter, Russia's attacks on energy systems deprived millions of heat and water. As a parliament, we respond with action, coming to communities, providing warm clothes, agreeing with businesses and donors to find new generators for heating and water utilities. Whatever Russia does, we will stand with our people, and we will always affirm our ironclad commitment to human rights. Thank you.
Vous pouvez chuter. Vous avez fini, merci beaucoup. À présent, nous passons la parole au Zimbabwe qui sera suivi de la Tunisie. Zimbabwe. Si le Zimbabwe n'est pas présent, nous allons passer la parole à la Tunisie. Tunisie, vous avez la parole.
Thank you. شكرا سيد الرئيس.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
في إطار تنفيذ القرارات الاتحاد البرلماني الدولي تؤكد تونس التزامها الراسخ بدعم العمل البرلماني المتعلق بمواجهة التغيرات المناخية وحماية البيئة انسجاما مع الدستور الذي يضمن حق في البيئة السليمة والمتوازنة. وقد اطلع مجلس نواب الشعب بالجمهورية التونسية بالدور الفاعل على عدة المستويات من خلال مشاركة في محافل الدولية ذات صلة بالمناخ والتنوع البيولوجي داعما لموقف تونس وتعزيز الدبلوماسية البرلمانية في هذا المجال. وعلى الصعيد الوطني واصل مجلس نواب الشعب دوره الرقابي والتشريعي عبر متابعة السياسات البيئية وطرح الإشكاليات المتعلقة بالتلوث والتصرف في النفايات وحماية شريط الساحلي إلى جانب مساءلة الجهات المعنية حول استراتيجية التكيف مع التغيرات المناخية. كما تم العمل على تطوير الإطار التشريعي من خلال صنع قوانين تهدف إلى تحسين إدارة النفايات ودعم المشاريع البيئية وتشجيع الاستثمار في الاقتصاد الأخضر بما ينسجم مع التزامات تونس الدولية وخاصة مع اتفاقية باريس للمناخ. وإذ نؤكد أهمية مواصلة الإصلاحات التشريعية وتوحيد النصوص القانونية ذات صلة بالبيئة فإننا نجدد التزامنا بمساهمة في تحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة وضمان حقوق الأجيال القادمة في البيئة السليمة. ونذكر في هذا السياق قانون المتعلق بالنفايات وبمراقبة التصرف فيها وإزالتها الذي صدق عليه مجلس نواب الشعب مؤخرا. والسلام عليكم. شكرا.
Merci beaucoup. À présent, nous passons la parole à Madame Teresa Bergman pour le compte du World Future Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues and trustees of our collective future, I'm speaking regarding the World Future Policy Award winners that were featured earlier in this segment. Since 2007, the World Future Council have worked with decision makers to embed future just policies at all levels of governance. Our World Future Policy Award raises global awareness of exemplary laws and policies, each year focusing on a topic where progress is particularly urgent. In 2025, the award, in partnership with the International Union for Conservation of Nature and the Inter-Parliamentary Union, focused on living in harmony with nature and future generations. The award celebrated laws promoting biodiversity, regenerating ecosystems, and recognizing nature's intrinsic value. A sincere thanks to the IPU for featuring our awardees in this accountability segment, and of course to the esteemed members of Parliament from Bhutan, Spain and South Africa for introducing the policies, as well as to the communities behind these outstanding initiatives. A brief mention must also go to our further 2025 award winners. These include the 2022 Law 287 on the rights of nature and related state obligations from Panama, the National Environment Act of Uganda 2019, the 2017 Te Awa Tupua Act from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and the BB&J Agreement under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. Information on all of these inspiring and very replicable policies can be found in the flyers distributed around the room, and we at the World Future Council stand ready to support you in the design, replication, and implementation of future just governance solutions. Nature can live without us, but we cannot live without her. We urge the parliamentarians in this room to integrate this essential truth into your political mindsets and to lead as good ancestors for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Avec cette intervention, nous avons conclu la liste d'intervenants pour cette section. Nous allons prendre quelques minutes de patience, le temps que nous amène la liste des pays qui ont sollicité d'intervenir pour la section suivante. Alors, nous allons commencer par le Commonwealth Parliamentary Organization. Vous avez la parole, s'ils sont présents dans la salle.
Yes, okay. Wait a minute, I need to make sure I have the right speech.
Vous avez la parole.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, honorable speakers, distinguished parliamentarians, colleagues and friends. It is a great honor to address this distinguished gathering of the Inter-Parliamentary Union here in the historic city of Istanbul. In case many of you are wondering what CPA means, it's Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, for whom I represent many of my colleagues in the 56 member countries. Let me say at the outset how sincerely thankful we are to the IPU, particularly Madam President and the Secretary General, for its continued leadership in strengthening parliamentary diplomacy and multilateral cooperation. The Commonwealth Parliamentary Association and the Inter-Parliamentary Union share a long-standing and productive partnership. Together, we're united by a common purpose to strengthen institutions, uphold the rule of law, and ensure that parliamentary remains at the heart of governance and accountability. Today, the mission has never been more important. Across the world, parliaments are navigating an increasingly complex landscape that is marked by geopolitical uncertainty, as many of you have said, economic pressures, rapid technological change, and growing public expectations. At the same time, trust in democratic institutions is being tested in many jurisdictions. In this context, our collective responsibility as parliamentarians is clear: to ensure that our institutions are resilient, inclusive, and responsive to the needs of the people we serve. At the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, we have placed responsibility at the center of our new strategic plan for 2026 to 2029. Our focus is threefold. First, we are strengthening parliaments, supporting institutions to be more effective, inclusive, and independent. This includes advancing gender equality, promoting disability inclusion, and supporting small and vulnerable jurisdictions. Secondly, we are investing in parliamentary professional development, equipping members and parliamentary staff with the knowledge, skills, and confidence needed to address today's challenges. And thirdly, we are promoting Commonwealth values. These include human rights, sustainable development, peace, and through stronger global engagement and partnerships. Our collaboration with the IPU is central to this work. Whether through research on gender equality, shared advocacy on parliamentary standards, or cooperation on international forums, our partnership demonstrates the power of working together to achieve greater impact. As we look ahead, there are three areas where I believe our collaboration can be further strengthened. First, in promoting inclusive parliaments, ensuring that women, young people, and persons with disabilities are fully represented and able to participate meaningfully in parliamentary life. Second, in supporting democratic resilience, particularly in times of geopolitical transition or challenge, through peer learning, dialogue, and technical assistance. And thirdly, in amplifying the voices of parliaments on global issues, from climate change to sustainable development, and ensuring that parliamentary perspectives are reflected in decision-making. Excellencies, the strength of our institutions lies not only in their structures, but in the values that underpin them: transparency, accountability, and service to our citizens. By working together, the CPA and IPU can continue to champion these values and support parliaments across the world in delivering their people. In closing, allow me to reaffirm the CPA's commitment to our partnership with the IPU and to our shared mission on strengthening parliamentary democracy. Last but not the least, let me, on behalf of the Commonwealth Parliamentary family, thank the outgoing Secretary General, Mr. Martin Chugong, for his excellent collaboration and collegiality with us during his term of office, and we in the Commonwealth wish him well in his future endeavors. I thank you, and my name is Honorable Dr. Christopher Kalila. I am a Member of Parliament in the Zambian Parliament, but presently the chairperson of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association International Executive Committee. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Maintenant, c'est au tour du Future World Council. Hein? Sur la liste ici, Future World Council. Vous avez la parole. Ils sont passés, ils viennent de passer. Vous avez la parole.
Thank you, Mr. President, honourable colleagues and stewards of our collective future. Since 2007, the World Future Council has worked with decision makers to embed future just policies at all levels of governance. We welcome the timely theme of this debate, noting the urgent need for the global parliamentary community to protect, respect, and fulfill the rights of present and future generations. The equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family, as enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and all other rights instruments, are in no way temporally limited. Parliamentarians have a special responsibility as guardians of the long-term public interest to pursue intergenerational justice. To cultivate hope, we must break free from mindsets constrained by electoral cycles and instead embrace long-term, holistic and equitable governance fueled by intergenerational and inclusive dialogue. In particular, due to their proximate position to future generations, the perspectives of youth on the societies that they will inherit must be afforded special weight. Inclusive dialogue, of course, includes women, minorities, and indigenous peoples, the latter as holders of invaluable knowledge on the continuum between past, present, and future, and the linkage between humankind and the ecosystems on which we depend. We are witnessing disproportionate and disastrous impacts of climate change and mounting pressures on our Earth. The unsustainable depletion of resources essential to future human life violates international law and amounts to intergenerational discrimination. It is your responsibility as representatives of the people present and future to prevent this. Likewise, it is essential to avoid burdening future generations with the consequences of armed conflict. Exorbitant military spending and nuclear expansion only inflates distrust and is counterproductive to building a lasting culture of peace. In accordance with the Pact for the Future, we urge parliamentarians to prioritize the development of institutionally enshrined, legally mandated, and independent mechanisms to embed effective future-proofing across political structures. The IPU can, of course, lead by example in this regard. By institutionalizing the rights of future generations through a resolution and the creation of an appropriate representative body. Representatives of the people, use your chance to be good ancestors for generations to come. The World Future Council stand ready to support the international parliamentary community to achieve a future just world. Thank you very much.
À présent, c'est au tour du délégué de l'Estonie.
Honorable Chair, distinguished colleagues, the main message of my speech will be, in a war, everyone loses. Hundreds of millions of people are in war. Tens of millions have been forced to leave their homes or even their homeland. These are not stories from history book. Unfortunately, they reflect our own times. Directly or indirectly, these wars touch everyone in the planet Earth. This is, for example, confirmed by the drastic rise in the price of oil and other raw materials across the world. We're all paying for the war. There's a real risk of stagflation, where economic growth slows down, while inflation, which is also known as the war tax, accelerates. This will not make any of us richer. And is this the legacy we want to leave to future generations? The answer is no. We live in an era of a great power rivalry. The rules-based world order is fading, and it has been replaced by force, by military and economic power. This painful truth was stated loudly, clearly, and convincingly by Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney in Davos, Switzerland. This is an extremely dangerous trend that we all must stop together, because none of us knows who will be the next victim of force. It could be you, yourself, it could be your country. We must return to a rules-based world order, cooperation and negotiations. However, an essential prerequisite for achieving this is that war crimes will be punished. For example, Russia's accountability and punishment for war crimes in Ukraine is a preventive prerequisite of utmost importance in averting future acts of aggression. At this point, it is fitting to conclude in the spirit of Hemingway with words of John Donne. Never send to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for you. When the world loses a single person, it makes you poorer as well. The world is a wonderful place to live, but on one condition: there must be no war. May there be peace in the world and in all your hearts. Thank you for your attention.
Merci beaucoup. À présent, c'est au tour du Pakistan et la France se prépare.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable President, fellow parliamentarians, Assalamu alaikum. We meet at the time to perform concern and the painful loss. The continued mayhem in Gaza, unending miseries, innocent men, women, children in Lebanon, war cloud hovering over the Persian Gulf. Ladies and gentlemen, at the time when the world faces growing uncertainty, Pakistan has shown the role as responsible and active voice for peace. Our sincere diplomatic efforts are the best display. Holding Islamabad talks start and through the combined leadership of the Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif, Deputy Prime Minister Ishaq Dar, and the Chief of Defense Forces, Field Marshal Syed Asim Munir. As our leadership strive re-engaged, two sides of the second round soon in Islamabad, inshallah. I implore upon the global parliamentary leaderships, raise the voice, take tangible action, support Pakistan drive. There can be no democratic, peaceful world order if the India keep denying Kashmiris their right of self-determination, and Israel keep ignoring every human dignity and respect for the international law, Gaza, West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, and elsewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats not fight each other. They fight out the problem together. It is time to people, chosen representative. We fight hunger, disease, climate chaos, mass migration and literacy together and build better, bright world for our future generation. I thank you all.
Merci beaucoup. À présent, c'est le tour de la France, suivi de la Turquie. Et la France dispose de 2 minutes.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les parlementaires, l'actualité ne fait que souligner l'urgence à mettre au centre de l'action des parlementaires la promotion de la paix devant l'escalade de la violence et l'urgence humanitaire dans de nombreux pays à travers le monde, et c'était l'objet de notre point d'urgence. En 2024, à Genève, nous avions évoqué dans le débat général le rôle indispensable de la diplomatie parlementaire pour tisser des liens, promouvoir la paix et la compréhension entre les peuples. J'avais déjà eu l'honneur de prendre la parole pour la France sur ce sujet toujours actuel. Je voudrais insister à nouveau dans notre débat en faveur des droits de l'homme et pour les générations futures sur la protection et le renforcement des droits des femmes et des filles. C'est un combat constant, une condition de la progression de l'humanité sur lesquelles nous ne devons jamais reculer et toujours rester vigilants. En février 2026, j'ai présenté devant le Parlement français un rapport sur la diplomatie féministe dans un contexte mondial où les mouvements réactionnaires et conservateurs remettent en cause les avancées des droits des femmes et des minorités. Il est essentiel de renforcer une approche diplomatique qui place l'égalité de genre et les droits fondamentaux au cœur de la politique étrangère française, européenne et internationale. La diplomatie féministe vise à faire de l'égalité des sexes une priorité structurante des relations internationales pour protéger les droits sexuels et reproductifs, prévenir les violences fondées sur le genre et favoriser la participation politique et économique des femmes partout dans le monde. Ah, ça va être trop court, donc je vais raccourcir. Chers collègues parlementaires, c'est à nous de nous emparer de ces enjeux majeurs, de légiférer, de contrôler nos parlements, d'orienter les financements nécessaires à ces ambitions et de porter haut et fort la voix de nos concitoyens, chacun dans nos pays, dans les enceintes où se décide leur avenir, où se décide notre avenir. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup. À présent, c'est au tour de la Turquie qui dispose de 5 minutes. Puisqu'ils sont sur la liste B, 5 minutes pour la Turquie.
Mr. President, distinguished parliamentarians, esteemed participants, as the Grand National Assembly of Türkiye, we are truly honored to host the 152nd Assembly of the Inter-Parliamentary Union. Welcoming you in Istanbul, a city where continents, cultures, and civilizations converge, is not only a privilege for us, but also a powerful symbol of dialogue, coexistence, and our shared responsibility for the future. I extend my sincere greetings to each of you and warmly welcome you to our country. This year's theme, Nurturing Hope, Securing Peace and Ensuring Justice for Future Generations, this theme is not only relevant, it is urgent. Because we are living in a time when hope is fragile, peace is increasingly challenged, and justice is too often delayed. Today, the world is going through a period of profound transformation. Global power structures are shifting, long-standing norms are eroding, and institutions that once upheld stability are struggling to maintain their effectiveness. We are witnessing a growing disconnect between power and legitimacy. And as this gap widens, the foundations of the international order are being weakened. What we are facing today is not a temporary crisis. It's a structural turning point. A moment in which the global system is being tested in its ability not only to prevent crises, but even to respond to them effectively. Distinguished parliamentarians, in recent years, the developments in the Middle East have become one of the clearest reflections of this global fracture. What began as a humanitarian crisis has evolved into a serious test of international legitimacy. Cities have been devastated, civilian infrastructure has been destroyed, and innocent lives, especially children, have been lost on an unacceptable scale. In the face of such suffering, the inability of international community to act with unity and determination points to a profound crisis of consciousness. At the same time, the increasing frequency of attacks and the targeting of civilian areas signal a dangerous trend, the expansion of conflict. And this expansion carries risks that go far beyond the region, because today's geopolitical tensions are deeply interconnected. They are shaped not only by direct confrontation, but also by proxy dynamics, competition over energy and trade routes, control of data flows, and strategic choke points. In such a complex environment, even a localized crisis has the potential to trigger systemic global consequences. For this reason, we as parliamentarians cannot afford to remain passive. We cannot treat these developments as distant events. We must approach them with a sense of responsibility, with strategic awareness, and with strong political will. Distinguished parliamentarians, the nature of conflict is changing. War today is no longer confined to battlefields. It directly targets civilian life. Water systems, energy infrastructure, health services, the very foundations of human existence and being deliberately undermined. And once again, it is the most vulnerable women, children, and youth who bear the heaviest burden. Let me state this clearly. Hope is built with determination. Peace requires consistent and collective effort. Justice cannot be postponed. Yet today, we see a world marked by contradiction. On one hand, unprecedented technological progress. On the other, persistent poverty, growing inequality, and widespread hunger. Millions of people continue to struggle for the most basic necessities, and the fact that we remain far from achieving the goal of zero hunger is a stark reminder that we are facing a deep global justice crisis. Distinguished parliamentarians, parliaments are not merely institutions that pass law. They are the embodiment of the will of the people. They are the conscience of our societies, and with that role comes responsibility. We must speak up, clearly, courageously, and consistently against injustice. Those who remain silent in the face of injustice do not only abandon the truth, they also lose their honor. Esteemed participants, the world we leave behind for future generations will be shaped by the decisions we make today. This is not an abstract responsibility, it's a concrete obligation. Türkiye has approached the Syrian displacement crisis with strong sense of humanitarian responsibility. Hundreds of thousands of children have been integrated into the education system, and tens of thousands of young people have gained access to higher education. Distinguished parliamentarians, Türkiye, guided by its deep-rooted state tradition and the principle, peace at home, peace in the world, will continue to advocate for a more just, more inclusive, and more balanced international order. Today, the need is clear. A global system that is more representative, more inclusive, and more fair. A system where justice prevails over power, where rights are protected not selectively but universally. Turkey's position is clear. The world is bigger than five. This is not merely a slogan. It's a call for reform, for fairness, and for a system that reflects the realities of our time. Mr. President and distinguished parliamentarians, we will continue to work with determination and sincerity for a more just international order. I thank you for your attention and extend my deepest respect to you all.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, Madame. À présent, c'est au tour du partenariat pour la santé de la mère, du nouveau-né et de l'enfant, PMNCH, pour 3 minutes.
Excellencies, honorable speakers, distinguished members of parliament, it is an honor to be here in front of you representing the Partnership for Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health, which is the largest alliance for women's, children's, and adolescent health in the world. Across the world, from Gaza to Khartoum, from Lebanon to Turkey, we are seeing that humanitarian crises are compounding with multiple crises. Economic hardships, high cost of living, financial constraints, and the violation of international humanitarian law are conflicting at a time where climate crisis is also on the rise. In the midst of all of these challenges, it is women, children, and adolescents who are the most vulnerable, who are also the most affected. They are also the bedrocks of our future, and yet, in all of these crises, their rights, including their right to health, is the first to be compromised and often the last to be restored. At this difficult time, the topic of this assembly, the theme of this assembly, which is to nurture hope, secure peace, and prosperity for future generations, is a call to action, especially from an equity perspective for the most vulnerable and marginalized women, children, and adolescents. For example, 64% of all maternal mortality happens in conflict and humanitarian zones. As the financial constraints are crippling global economies, countries are unable to invest adequately in health systems, especially for women, children, and adolescents. As official development assistance is reducing, countries are unable to absorb the shocks that they are facing. So the Partnership for Maternal, Newborn, and Child Health really urges parliamentarians through their constitutional levers and prerogatives of legislation, budgeting, and oversight and representation to ensure that these vulnerable and marginalized population groups are adequately protected, because we must be clear that there can be no peace without the health of the future of our societies. Without our mothers, we would not be here, and we were all children and adolescents one. And without their health, there can be no peace and prosperity. The partnership, therefore, urges 4 actions. 1 is to ensure that the health and services for these vulnerable population groups are continued even during conflict and crisis. 2 is to ensure that there is adequate financing for the provision of these services for women, children, and adolescents. 3, that there is inclusive accountability for the health and well-being of women, children, and adolescents, including during conflicts and crisis. And 4, to ensure that there is adequate representation of these population groups in the halls of power. We applaud the Inter-Parliamentary Union for their push towards increasing women's leadership and the participation of young MPs in these decision-making processes. PMNCH is here to support you. The partnership has a few initiatives that we offer to parliamentarians. For example, the initiative of sitting heads of state being chaired by His Excellency President Ramaphosa, called the Global Leaders Network, is convening 12 heads of state who are stepping up to champion the issues of health and well-being of women and children and adolescents at the highest political levels. Secondly, the Parliamentary Network for Women's, Children's, and Adolescents, which is being convened by Honorable Madam Speaker Didiza of South Africa, and which met yesterday, in fact, is convening speakers and parliamentarians with the mandate to advance these issues. And this network is also supported by the IPU, including Honorable Oral Atanizova from the IPU Health Committee. And lastly, we're also convening civil society stakeholders through the Collaborative Advocacy Action Plan initiative, which brings different constituencies together to ensure that the lived realities of populations are reflected in the policies that are made, and also that commitments that are being made by decision makers translate into action for these vulnerable population groups. Honorable parliamentarians, honorable speakers, this is an urgent time. If we act together, we will be able to ensure not only our well-being, but the well-being of future generations. And if we do not act together, we stand at a moment of peril. We urge, as the IPU has urged, consensus, dialogue, and multi-constituency effort for partnerships for the most vulnerable and marginalized population groups. If we fail women, children, and adolescents, we fail the very foundation of our collective peace and prosperity. I thank you for listening, and please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you, distinguished excellencies.
Merci beaucoup. À présent, nous invitons les délégués du Pérou à prendre la parole pour une petite minute.
Buen día a todos, buen día, presidente. Nos convocan los temas fomentar la esperanza, asegurar la paz y garantizar la justicia para las futuras generaciones. En primer lugar, fomentar la esperanza. ¿Cómo? Podemos tener esperanza, confianza en una sociedad hipócrita, de doble moral, de doble rasero, con gobernantes que van a la iglesia cada semana, cada día a golpearse el pecho y luego se convierten o transforman en asesinos de niños, jóvenes, mujeres o adultos. ¿Qué camino positivo se puede avisorar en un escenario lleno de sangre? Ninguno. Porque hay autoridades gobernantes que por su actuar permanente deben ser sometidos a una evaluación psiquiátrica, psicológica, porque no tienen derecho a terminar con los proyectos de vida de las familias de muchos países del mundo. Porque nuestros hijos sí tienen derecho a una esperanza de vida exitosa con nuestra participación. ¿Por qué los niños de Gaza y otros no? ¿O acaso no tienen derecho humano a la vida, salud, vivienda, educación, entre otros derechos? En segundo lugar, asegurar la paz. ¿Cuál paz? ¿La de los cementerios? ¿La paz de los padres que entierran en silencio a sus hijos por culpa de algunos gobernantes genocidas, asesinos? Ya basta. Exigimos a la Organización de las Naciones Unidas intervenir con humanidad. Ya basta de la doble moral. Hay que ser empáticos. Son seres humanos a los que están matando. No habrá paz mientras la sangre siga corriendo por nuestras calles. No habrá paz mientras haya hambre. No habrá paz mientras todos seamos indiferentes ante la muerte y el asesinato de inocentes. En la anterior asamblea de la Unión Interparlamentaria, en Irán, Líbano y otros, no había genocidio, asesinato de niños, de gobernantes, no había destrucción de hospitales, de escuelas. Pregunto en voz alta, ¿quién sigue? ¿Qué genocidios vamos a encontrar en la Asamblea General de Tanzania? Reaccionemos. Finalmente, garantizar la justicia para las futuras generaciones. ¿Cuál justicia? ¿La de la impunidad de los asesinos y genocidas de niños? ¿Cuál justicia? ¿La de la impunidad de los que destruyen escuelas, hospitales y viviendas? No puede haber justicia en este mundo si los asesinos y genocidas no se pudren en la cárcel. No queremos la justicia de los silencios cómplices, de las indiferencias. La justicia exige protagonismo, participación para defender nuestra humanidad. Gracias por su atención. Profesora Alex Antonio Paredes González, congresista de la República del Perú. Gracias.
Gracias. À présent, nous invitons l'orateur de la délégation du Japon à prendre la parole pour 2 minutes. Japan. Et l'Australie se prépare, s'il vous plaît.
日本の国会代表団副団長を務めております参議院議員の加田博之でございます。本日120カ国を超える議会関係者が集う第152回 IPU 会議での発言の機会をいただきましたことに感謝と御礼を申し上げたいと思います。私の出身であります兵庫県は1995年1月17日に阪神・淡路大震災に見舞われ、6400人の超える犠牲を出しました。私は当時、復旧・復興に取り組む人々の姿を取材し、命の大切さ、政治の持つ意義を痛感し、政治を志す原点となりました。阪神・淡路大震災からの復興過程におきまして、兵庫県が提唱いたしましたビルドバックベターの考えは、現在、世界の災害復興の基準となっております。数々の災害復旧・復興において、単に被災前の状態に回復するだけではなくて、より良い復興とするべく、創造的復興が継承されてきました。ここトルコにおきましても、我が国と同じ地震大国であります。近年では2023年、トルコ・シリア地域におきましても、地震で甚大な被害が出ておりますが、両国が震災が発生した際には、国や地方自治体レベルで互いに支援を行っており、兵庫県も創造的復興の理念に基づきまして、県民からの義援金基金により、震災維持、孤児支援、そして防災・減災の研修支援などを行っております。 昨今、世界の各地におきまして、災害のみならず、戦争や紛争によりまして、国土が破壊され、心を痛めております。まずは一日も早い紛争の、そして戦争の早期終結に向けまして、ここ IPU 会議に集う我々は外交努力がしっかりと担保されなければなりません。その上で我々が培ってきました創造的復興の理念は、必ず平和の実現に貢献できるものであると信じております。実際、兵庫県は創造的復興の理念を戦時下にありますウクライナ復興に生かせるかを検討し、復興財源、住民参画、経験と教訓の継承を柱とする提言をまとめてまいりました。加えて我が国の災害の語り部文化におきましては、被災を乗り越えた人々が体験を語り継ぎながら風化を防ぎ、次の防災・減災活動につなげるものでありまして、新たなるパブリックディプロマシーとして世界に広げていきたいと考えております。この語り部文化は、減災や災害だけではなく、戦争の防止にも必ず役立つと考えております。記憶や教訓を語り、積み重ねることが歴史を作ります。我々は今一度、言論という語るべき力を強く認識し、不安を希望にしっかりと変えていこうではありませんか。以上をもちまして発言とさせていただきます。ありがとうございました。
Merci beaucoup. À présent, la parole est à Madame O'Neill pour le compte de la délégation de l'Australie. Elle dispose d'une petite minute aussi.
Mr. President, colleagues, what a pleasure it is to address you this afternoon. I have been allocated 1 minute. There is so much more that we want to talk about with our country's efforts towards securing hope and peace and ensuring justice for future generations. As an Australian, I am proud to stand here from a country that was a founding member of the United Nations. Australia has remained an active participant in the UN institutions for 80 years, and over this time, Australia has continued to uphold, strengthen and promote agreed international rules and norms, promote transparency and diplomatic dialogue, and to invest in global, regional and international partnerships. You could see from our contribution of Mr. Milton Dick, the Speaker of Australia yesterday, his efforts at building collaboration across the globe for the support of our emergency item. With regard to the United Nations in particular, Australia is committed to enhancing the UN peacekeeping architecture to provide a greater focus on conflict prevention, inclusion and social cohesion, while also addressing the root causes of conflict and instability. Can I acknowledge also my colleagues from the Asia Pacific and our regional efforts to work towards the building of hope, peace and justice for future generations. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. À présent, c'est à l'orateur pour le compte du Paraguay. Paraguay. Elle dispose de 5 minutes.
Muy buenas tardes, señor presidente, autoridades, distinguidos colegas parlamentarios de todo el mundo. Vengo desde el Alto Paraná, donde el río Paraná une naciones, fronteras y sueños. Desde Paraguay hemos cruzado continentes para estar acá en Turquía con un propósito firme, elevar nuestra voz y dejar acciones concretas. Les hablo con la voz de una nación que ha conocido el dolor de los conflictos bélicos, pero también afortunadamente conocemos el valor inmenso de la paz reconstruida con justicia verdadera. Paraguay es una nación marcada por la resiliencia y debo decirlo acá en este foro y en cuanto foro asista, la nación paraguaya existe gracias a las mujeres y la nación paraguaya ha sido reconstruida por las mujeres con un coraje inquebrantable después de las guerras y los conflictos bélicos. Y ese legado vive en cada uno de nosotras, de nosotros, y es presente y se proyecta al futuro. En esta 152 Asamblea de la Unión, reunidos bajo este lema tan poderoso que nos convoca, Paraguay no viene solamente a dejar palabras vacías. Venimos a exigir acciones parlamentarias concretas, audaces, porque frente a estas guerras que destruyen el futuro de millones, principalmente de mujeres y niños, la inacción no es una opción, no es una alternativa. Apoyamos con convicción una resolución sobre el rol de los parlamentos en el establecimiento de mecanismos sólidos de gestión post-conflicto. Proponemos impulsar sin demora comisiones mixtas para la reconciliación, el desarme efectivo y la reintegración económica real de víctimas y excombatientes. Programas de rendición de cuentas que respeten estrictamente el derecho internacional y combatan sin tregua el terrorismo en todas sus formas. Asimismo, respaldamos con determinación una resolución orientada a construir una economía global justa y sostenible. Ante el proteccionismo que asfixia a los países en desarrollo, exigimos armonizar normativas regionales contra la elusión fiscal, reducir aranceles injustos, garantizar total transparencia, reinvertir los recursos recuperados en educación de calidad, inclusión real de mujeres y niños y en una justicia climática que no admite demoras. Paraguay, como nación que mantiene alianzas estratégicas, sólidas y profundas con Estados Unidos e Israel, países con los que compartimos el compromiso con la democracia, la seguridad regional, el respeto al derecho internacional, está lista para liderar desde el sur con coraje y solidaridad. Asimismo, repudiamos cualquier pedido de expulsión de Israel que se ha presentado en este ámbito y en este foro. En el marco del Grupo de Latinoamérica y del Caribe, el GRULAC, promovemos el diálogo sincero como el único puente posible hacia una paz duradera. Estambul, ciudad milenaria que une continentes, sea hoy testigo de nuestro compromiso colectivo. Que esta asamblea no concluya solo con discursos, sino con un verdadero pacto de acción. Es momento de actuar con decisión. Cultivemos hoy leyes valientes, cooperación genuina y la esperanza, la paz y la justicia que nuestros hijos y las generaciones futuras merecen y esperan. Muchísimas gracias.
Merci, chers collègues. La parole est désormais au Monténégro. Chers collègues, vous avez 3 minutes.
Distinguished Chair, esteemed colleagues, today we speak of hope, peace and justice for future generations. But for small countries like Montenegro, these are not abstract ideas. These are daily responsibilities and real challenges. Small state may not possess great political and military power, but we offer something equally vital, a deep commitment to dialogue, cooperation and solidarity. For us, multilateralism is not a choice, it's a necessity. When the international system weakens, small states feel it first and most acutely. That is why we are natural advocates for strengthening trust among nations and upholding international law. In a time marked by growing divisions, armed conflicts, and declining trust in institutions, parliaments have a crucial role to play. Our responsibility goes beyond legislation. We must build bridges between citizens and governments, between nations and between present and future generations. Montenegro firmly believes that sustainable peace cannot exist without inclusion. This means greater participation of young people and women in decision-making. It means listening to those who will live with the consequences of decisions we make today. If we fail to include future generations now, we risk losing their trust tomorrow. At the same time, we face new complex challenges, from climate change to the rapid development of artificial intelligence. Small states may lack the resources of tackle these issues alone, but through international cooperation, we can be active and responsible partners. We must ensure that technology serves humanity rather than becoming a source of new inequalities and insecurity. Distinguished colleagues, hope is not passive. It is built through possible policies, meaningful dialogue, and genuine solidarity. Small states remind you that no country is too small to contribute to peace, but also that no country is large enough to solve global challenges alone. Let us choose cooperation over division, long-term vision over short-term interests, and responsibility toward future generation above all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Le prochain est notre collègue du Guyana pour 3 minutes.
Distinguished Chair, the theme that unites us today is a moral imperative, a reminder with thundering clarity that the work of lawmaking is nothing less than the work of hope itself. Guyana carries a vision and a reputation larger than its borders. It is a nation that has known division and chosen unity, known conflict and chosen dialogue. Guyana's parliament is the cornerstone of our democracy. A system defined by inclusivity. 37% of parliamentarians in Guyana are women and 44% youth, figures that speak not merely to progress, but to purpose. Youth take their seats in the National Assembly annually to debate, nurturing critical thinking, respectful dialogue, and the confidence to speak truth to power. For us, Guyana, democracy is not merely a system of governance, but a living, breathing force that nurtures hope and safeguards peace for generations to come. Guyana's parliament drives sustainability, growth through the low-carbon development strategy of 2030, protecting forests and promoting renewable energy. It advances poverty reduction, food security, and embraces digital governance. Our parliament is a decisive force in deepening democratic governance through constitutional reform and strengthening of statutory commissions by ensuring their mandates are robustly resourced and operationally independent. Guyana's active inter-parliamentary cooperation fosters the exchange of best practices for democratic governance and conflict resolution. Our parliament has contributed to advancing peace and justice by supporting initiatives that promote human rights, electoral integrity, anti-corruption measures, played a mediating role in regional disputes, and endorsed multilateral agreements that reinforce collective security and sustainable development goals, enacted transformative legislation driving fiscal responsibility and social progress. By aligning our national laws and policies with the principles of the UN Pact, we are demonstrating our commitment to a more peaceful and equitable world. Justice in the 21st century demands more than good laws. It demands accessible governance. The Ask Gov platform is being developed as part of Guyana's transformative Digital Guyana initiative, and the Data Protection Act of 2023 lays the legislative groundwork for digital democracy built on trust. Guyana's parliament is more than an institution. It is Guyana's greatest promise to her people, a promise that their voices matter, their hopes are sovereign, and peace is not merely the absence of conflict, but the deliberate act of building a society where the dignity and rights of every citizen is preserved. Future generations will ask one question only: when it mattered, did you act? The answer will not be spoken, it will be written in the laws we pass, the peace we preserve, and the hope we refuse to surrender. The future is already watching. I thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. The next one, Poland, for 1 minute.
distinguished chair, distinguished colleagues. Peace negotiations have long been imagined as rooms full of men, from Vienna to Oslo. For centuries, women were largely excluded from these processes, creating a gap between lived experience and decision made at the negotiating table. 25 years ago, the UN Security Council adopted Resolution 1325, recognizing that women's full and meaningful participation is essential to peace and security. Yet, progress remains slow. In 2024, women made up only 7% of negotiators and 14% of mediators, and many formal peace processes still exclude women entirely. And this is not simply a matter of equality or representation.
Please conclude.
It is a matter of security and of building durable peace. Because peace is not achieved just by signing a document. It is built and sustained in communities through the long, difficult process of rebuilding trust, stability, and social cohesion. In that process, women are often at the forefront as community leaders and organizers, helping societies heal from conflict. That is precisely why their perspective must be present in decision-making, not less, but arguably even more than in times of peace. This is where parliaments have a crucial role to play. Women parliamentarians can bring perspectives that are too often missing from formal peace processes.
Thank you very much.
1 second.
Yes,
Representative
1 minute,
parliaments,
please.
diverse in gender, age, and background, can bridge the gap between formal negotiations and real societal needs emerging in post-conflict societies. Because decision-making is essential to build peace and restoring a sense of security, and peace can only be sustained when it belongs to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one, Portugal. Mexico, please.
Muchas gracias, distinguido presidium, integrantes de esta Unión Interparlamentaria. Comparezco ante esta Asamblea con la representación de México y con la convicción de que en tiempos de incertidumbre global, la política no puede refugiarse en la comodidad del discurso, sino asumir la responsabilidad de defender principios, libertades y derechos. Hablar hoy de esperanza, de paz, justicia para las futuras generaciones nos obliga, antes que nada, a hablar con verdad. Y la verdad es esta: el mundo atraviesa una etapa de profunda fragilidad. Vemos guerras que destruyen comunidades enteras, autoritarismos que avanzan en costuras populistas, polarización que fractura sociedades, violencia que lastima a millones de familias y una creciente desconfianza ciudadana hacia las instituciones. Frente a ello, los parlamentos estamos llamados al compromiso de fijar rumbo y dejar de lado la tentación de administrar inercias. Desde México y desde una visión humanista, democrática y profundamente comprometida con la dignidad de la persona, sostenemos que la paz no puede construirse sobre el silencio de las libertades, ni la justicia puede edificarse sobre la erosión de las instituciones. La paz verdadera nace del derecho y se robustece con el respeto a las diferencias, jamás por parte de imposición alguna.
Thank you, sir.
Que esta asamblea sirva para recordarnos que la esperanza no se decreta, se construye, que la paz no se improvisa, se sostiene con justicia, y que la justicia no será posible para las futuras generaciones si hoy renunciamos a defender la democracia con firmeza. México tiene mucho que aportar al mundo, pero también tiene mucho que cuidar en casa. Y precisamente por eso, nuestra voz debe ser clara. Sin democracia no hay justicia duradera. Sin legalidad no hay paz verdadera. Y sin dignidad humana, en el centro de la acción política, no hay futuro que merezca ser heredado. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. The next one, Portugal, for 1 minute.
Distinguished chair, colleagues, we cannot speak about global challenge as if they were distant. They are not. Their impact is real and it's growing. Regional conflicts do not stay within their borders. They affect us all. They create instability, increase poverty, damage economies, and lead to more and more refugees. Ignoring this reality will only make the consequences worse. We should also be honest. Every euro spent on war is a euro not spent on education, healthcare, and development. And the cost grows over time in lost opportunities and in generations without real prospects. That is why we must be clear. We need to work towards ending all wars, not managing them, not accepting them, ending them. This requires political courage and real commitment. Our role is not to make vague statements, it's to fight for the conditions that allow people to improve their lives with stability, security, and real opportunities. There is no development without peace, and no lasting peace without fairness. Where inequality and exclusion exist, conflict will follow. We must also be clear about one risk. When we move away from a rules-based international order, we drift into improvisation, into the law of the strongest, and towards abuse of the power. We cannot allow this. Mr. Chair, colleagues, we need action, not just words, stronger institutions, real cooperation, because our responsibility is simple, to protect the future, not just to react to crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next one, the Suriname for 1 minute. You have the floor.
Distinguished chair, colleagues, as we move toward our conclusions, our deliberations must reflect the full reality of today's global context. The world is facing escalating conflicts and growing instability from Ukraine to Gaza and beyond. These crises are interconnected and their consequences reach far beyond security. They are also shaping the future of our young people. The World Bank has warned of growing structural challenges. The world economy is not creating enough decent and sustainable jobs for the youth. When youth people are excluded from meaningful economic participation, the risks are clear: greater vulnerability, social instability, and declining trust in institutions. I therefore encourage that our report explicitly link conflicts, economic disruptions, and youth employment, emphasize decent work as a foundation for sustainable peace, and call for stronger international cooperation to expand opportunities for future generations. A generation without prospect is a risk the world cannot afford. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, dear colleagues. Le prochain, c'est Islande pour 2 minutes. You have the floor, dear colleagues.
Mr. President, dear colleagues, it is a great pleasure for me to say a few words about the political, economic, and social situation in the world from the perspective of our very vital theme. Millions of children live in poverty around the world. According to the World Bank and UNICEF, more than 400 million children live in extreme poverty, surviving on less than $3 a day, with the largest concentration in sub-Saharan Africa. Yet, child poverty is not limited to low-income countries. It is a global challenge affecting both low and high-income societies. Poverty takes many forms, from extreme deprivation, where children lack the basic necessities to survive, to relative poverty, where children are unable to participate fully in the opportunities and living standards considered normal in their society. In Iceland, one of the world's richest countries, far too many families face housing insecurity and lack the means to support their children's well-being. These children often do not have the same opportunities as their peers, nor the ability to choose and pursue their own interests. Children who grow up in poverty are more likely to face poor health, learning difficulties, and social isolation. These challenges often persist into childhood, limiting access to education, stable employment, and adequate income, and reinforcing cycle of intergenerational poverty. The costs to society are significant, placing pressure on health, education, welfare, and justice systems. We know what works: strong social protection systems, family-friendly policies such as paid parental leave, universal access to quality health and education, and ensuring that all children can participate fully in society. Addressing child poverty is not only a moral imperative, it is also a smart investment in more just, stable, and prosperous future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Le prochain, c'est l'Équateur pour 2 minutes. You have the floor, dear colleague.
Yes.
Estimados colegas parlamentarios, el estar aquí representa una oportunidad valiosa y una gran responsabilidad. Durante nuestra participación en los distintos foros, mesas de trabajo, reuniones, hay momentos y enseñanzas que se han guardado en mi mente y en mi corazón. Por ejemplo, el escuchar a Georgina hace un par de días atrás, la pequeña que nos habló de mantener viva la esperanza de un mundo mejor. Los inspiradores discursos sobre la participación de las mujeres en política, el análisis profundo sobre cómo tener más jóvenes parlamentarios como algunos de nosotros. Esto me ha llevado a reflexionar sobre la situación de mi propio país. En algunos aspectos, nuestras cifras son bastante alentadoras. El Parlamento ecuatoriano está conformado por 46% de mujeres y cuenta con un porcentaje similar de jóvenes parlamentarios. Sin embargo, la política en general sigue sonando a mala palabra, sigue teniendo una asociación negativa. Y desde mi punto de vista, esto tiene relación con cómo se llevan a cabo las campañas políticas. Quiero dejar un mensaje en este momento. Si queremos parlamentos más diversos e inclusivos, es necesario que la política sea accesible para todos, que no dependa del aspecto económico, sino de las ideas. Finalmente, quiero recordarles que hace un par de días, cuando le preguntaron a Georgina si quería convertirse en política, ella nos dijo que no. Esto para mí es una señal clara de que nos falta mucho por hacer. Por supuesto, tal vez la vocación de Georgina sea diferente. O tal vez Georgina y otras georginias con nuestro trabajo puedan responder que sí. Porque sin lugar a dudas necesitamos que más georginas digan que sí. Y por supuesto, ese es nuestro trabajo. Gracias.
Thank you. The next one is Ukraine. For 2 minutes, you have the floor, dear colleague.
Distinguished colleagues, Ukraine stands today not only defending its sovereignty, but defending the very principles upon which this institution is built. We are defending a principle that law must prevail over force. Because if the world accepts that might makes right, we will not have order, we will have chaos. For more than 4 years, Russia's full-scale invasion has tested this principle. Cities destroyed, thousands of lives lost, millions displaced, but the most dangerous consequence is global: the erosion of international law. If aggression is tolerated, it will be repeated elsewhere by others. There can be no double standards. Sovereignty and territorial integrity are not optional. They are a foundation of international peace. A just peace is not a pause. It is not a compromise with aggression. It is the full restoration of international law. At the same time, Ukraine continues to act responsibility. Despite the war, we can contribute to global food security and support regions that depend on stable supplies. But let us be clear. Stability cannot exist where aggression is rewarded. Today, every nation faced a choice: to defend the rules or to live in a world where rules no longer matter. Ukraine has made its choice. We ask you to stand with us. Thank you.
Merci, chers collègues. Nous allons passer maintenant à la liste numéro D des jeunes parlementaires. Et j'appelle la Norvège. Non ? C'est à vous, chers collègues.
Chairperson, distinguished colleagues, the current state of the world is having a huge impact on future generations. At the moment, we are failing them. The wars and conflicts that are dominating so many places in the world are taking away the future of our youth. Russia's aggression in Ukraine is effectively erasing the future of young Ukrainians. The conflict in Sudan is leaving a generation behind without hope, and the list of conflicts goes on. There are too many examples, and we need to find a way towards peace. The focus on raging war and conflict and the lack of attention to peace are also taking away our attention of other issues. War is in direct opposition to sustainable development. We see the removal of funding of important initiatives to advance social development, give more people access to education, strengthening sexual and reproductive rights, and many other topics that lay the foundation for a future where people have more freedoms and possibilities. And we are lagging behind in battling climate change. As a young parliamentarian, this is of major concern to me. Because climate change is an existential threat for us all, but the impact will be the responsibility of future generations to carry. Today, as the glaciers in my own country are being erased and the extreme weather events intensify, we also find that conflicts displace the very communities most vulnerable to the environmental collapse. When nations are locked in geopolitical rivalry, the trust necessary for ambitious multilateral climate agreements evaporates. When defense budgets swell and diplomatic channels narrow, the space for cooperative action on emissions, renewable energy transition, and so on, they disappear. We cannot afford to treat peace and climate action as separate agendas. To allow the crisis of today to take away the future of the generations yet to come would not merely be a political failure, it would be a profound moral one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. La parole est à notre collègue de la République démocratique du Congo. C'est à vous, chers collègues.
Honorable Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les parlementaires, je prends la parole au nom d'une génération consciente de ses responsabilités, non pour revendiquer une présence des circonstances, mais pour faire attendre une voix lucide, engagée et résolument tournée vers la construction des solutions durables. Cette voix est celle de la jeunesse congolaise, une jeunesse qui vit les thèmes de notre Assemblée comme une réalité concrète. Dans cette perspective, mon pays poursuit, sous l'impulsion du président Félix Antoine Tshisekedi Tshilombo, des efforts constants en faveur de la paix, du renforcement de l'état des droits, de la réforme des institutions et de la promotion d'une gouvernance davantage attentive aux aspirations de la population, notamment de la jeunesse et de femmes. 3 convictions me paraissent aujourd'hui essentielles. La première est que la paix ne se proclame pas. Elle se construit par les dialogues, dans le respect de la souveraineté et de l'intégrité territoriale, à travers la cessation des hostilités. Dans cette œuvre, la diplomatie parlementaire a un rôle majeur à jouer. La deuxième est que la confiance dans les institutions demeure au cœur de leur légitimité. Elle se renforce par la transparence, la responsabilité et l'engagement constant en faveur de l'intérêt général. La troisième est que la justice entre les générations nous oblige à penser loin. Elle nous oblige à légiférer avec responsabilité sur l'éducation, l'emploi, l'environnement, le numérique et la gestion de nos ressources naturelles afin de transmettre aux générations futures non pas un fardeau, mais un héritage maîtrisé. La jeunesse congolaise demeure engagée et confiante. Malgré les souffrances qu'endurent encore les populations de l'Est de la République démocratique du Congo, du fait de l'agression de notre pays par les Rwandais.
Il faut conclure, chers collègues.
Cultiver l'espoir, consolider la paix et assurer la justice pour les générations futures, tel est pour nous non seulement une ambition commune, mais un devoir de notre temps. Je vous remercie.
Merci, chers collègues. La parole est à notre collègue, M. Abdo de l'Australie. Australia, you have the floor.
Thank you, colleagues. Parliaments have an obligation to respond and shape how change is realised within and across societies. I am proud to represent a community in Australia driven by purpose and with pride in our area, an area that has built much and remains determined to build what comes next. We are living through a structural economic shift. Production is moving away from traditional manufacturing toward technology-intensive sectors. Yet this transition is deeply uneven. Its gains are concentrated while disruptions are widely shared, across countries at different stages of development, across regions and across economic fault lines. Without deliberate policy, technological change risks reinforcing global and domestic inequalities rather than reducing them. For some, it creates new opportunity. For others, it deepens existing vulnerabilities. Labour markets are no longer stable or predictable. The model of front-loaded education followed by lifelong employment is fraying. Instead, economies require continuous skill systems where reskilling and upskilling are accessible and responsive to change. Young people will carry the consequences of policy decisions. We are entering a state of continuous economic adjustment with corresponding skills development needed across these stages. This places a responsibility on parliaments to build institutions that are effective and forward-looking, education systems that evolve with technology, labour policies that protect workers' rights in forms of employment that are increasingly less static, and development strategies that reflect differing national contexts rather than assuming a single pathway. It also requires recognising young people as co-creators of policy. Their inclusion is essential to ensuring that policy reflects lived economic realities, recognising that economic resilience will depend on their ability to navigate the change ahead, not just inherit it. The task is to shape this transition deliberately, equitably, and with a clear understanding of the social and economic realities shaping Australia, the Asia-Pacific, and the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. La parole est à notre collègue, Madame Mahachaoui de la Tunisie. Vous avez la parole, chers collègues.
السيد الرئيس، في مستهل مداخلتي يشرفني أن أتقدم باسم الوفد التونسي وباسمي الشخصي بأصدق عبارات الشكر والتقدير إلى جمهورية تركيا قيادة وشعبا على حسن الاستقبال وكرم الضيافة وعلى التنظيم المتميز لأشغال هذه الجمعية العامة بما يعكس مكانتها الراسخة في مد جسور الحوار والتعاون بين الشعوب والبرلمانات. سيد الرئيس، السيدات والسادة، أتحدث إليكم اليوم كامرأة تونسية عربية شابة لأطرح سؤالاً بسيطاً في ظاهره لكن عميقاً في جوهره. كيف نعزز الأمل في عالم يطغى عليه اليأس والإحباط بشكل ممنهج؟ كيف نصون السلام بينما تقصف النساء في لبنان وغزة وتباد عائلات بأكملها ويشرد الأطفال وتدمر المدارس والمستشفيات ودور العبادة في أكثر من بلد عربي وإسلامي، بل ويمنع المصلون ولمدة 40 يوم من ارتياد الأقصى وغيرها في مواسم دينية؟ وكيف نضمن العدالة للأجيال القادمة إذا كانت هذه الأجيال تولد اليوم تحت القصف وتنشأ في ظل الخوف والحرمان؟ الحقيقة المؤلمة هي أن الأمل لا يمكن أن يبنى على ازدواجية المعايير. هناك من يتحدث باسم حقوق الإنسان ويقدم لنا دروساً باسم حقوق الإنسان. كيف يقدم لنا دروساً في المواثيق الاتفاقيات الدولية لكنه يصمت أو يبرر حين تنتهك هذه الحقوق أمام أعين العالم؟ أي رسالة نوجهها للأجيال القادمة؟ أن العدالة تطبق حسب المصالح؟ أم أن القانون الدولي قابل للتأويل عندما يتعلق الأمر بالأقوياء؟ ويظل التساؤل: لماذا وجدت المنظومة الدولية الحالية بعد الحرب العالمية الثانية؟ وما الفائدة من وجود منظمة الأمم المتحدة أمام السلبية السائدة على مستوى المجتمع الدولي واستفحال ظواهر العنف والعربدة من قبل كيانات تعتبر نفسها دول؟ من منظور جندري لا يمكن الحديث عن السلام دون النساء ولا عن المستقبل دون حماية الأطفال، فالمرأة في منازع النزاع ليست مجرد ضحية بل هي أيضا صانعة سلام إن منحت الفرصة. لكن أي سلام ننتظره إذا كانت الفتيات يحرمن من التعليم بل وتقصف مدارسهن والأمهات يفقدن الأمانة؟ ولنا أمثلة كثيرة في منطقتنا العربية والأطفال يحرمون من أبسط حقوقهم في الحياة. الأمل ليس شعاراً نرفعه بل مسؤولية نتحملها، والسلام ليست نصوصاً نوقعها بل التزاماً نحميه، والعدالة ليست وعداً للأجيال القادمة بل حقاً يجب أن نضمنه. لذلك سيد الرئيس أدعو إلى إنهاء الانتقائية في تطبيق القانون الدولي إلى حماية فعلية للنساء والأطفال في كل مناطق النزاع، وشكراً لكم.
Merci, chers collègues, merci. Je laisse la parole maintenant à notre collègue Sanchez Rodriguez de Mexique. You have the floor, dear colleague.
Vengo en representación de mi país y de mi generación, México,
Soy Ernesto Sánchez, soy mexicano y soy diputado de oposición del Partido Acción Nacional. La situación en mi país es complicada. Como lo ha alertado la ONU, hay más de 132,000 personas desaparecidas y la gran mayoría de ellas jóvenes. Hace unos meses se reformó el Poder Judicial de mi país, debilitando la independencia y con ello la posibilidad de encontrar justicia. Represento al estado de Quintana Roo, en donde está la playa más famosa de México, Cancún, y en donde necesitamos reconstruir el tejido social. Pero en vez de atender con profundidad estos retos, el régimen ha polarizado a mi país como estrategia política. Denunciar esta realidad como oposición en México significa y exige ser valiente. Ya vemos miles de millones de mexicanos valientes en todo este país. Desde el norte, el centro y el sureste, desde Durango, Coahuila, Ciudad de México, Veracruz, Tamaulipas y hasta el estado de Quintana Roo. Hoy a todos ellos los represento aquí en Turquía, frente a todos ustedes. Entré a la política a los 16 años. Soy parte de una generación que cree que puede la democracia cambiar cualquier régimen autoritario. Porque para tener educación necesitamos tener valor, necesitamos tener todos los instrumentos para generar un patrimonio y tener un futuro próspero. Todos los jóvenes merecen ir a la escuela y volver sin ser desaparecidos o reclutados por el crimen organizado. Merecen educación, pero también merecen salud y también merecen inspiración. Los jóvenes merecen futuro, pero sobre todo merecen presente. Para finalizar, quiero decir que nuestra labor como parlamentarios es generar leyes, diseñar políticas públicas y asignar recursos suficientes para darles esperanza presente. Porque los que nos dedicamos a la política sabemos que un país no puede ser para unos ni debe de ser para otros. Las oportunidades no pueden ser para unos, deben de ser para todos. Concluyo diciendo, compañeras y compañeros parlamentarios, desde esta tribuna hago un llamado a la unidad, a construir el bien común para México, para mi continente y para el mundo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. La parole est à notre collègue d'Irlande, Monsieur Murphy. Dear colleague, Ireland, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Agus Gurmaha give Don Winter and Turk, Don Falchamora Torshiv Dun, Ira and Shopton Shaw. Thank you to the people of Turkey for the great welcome that you've given us throughout the last week. Coming from Ireland, a small nation on the western periphery of Europe, after centuries of economic struggles, we clearly understand the challenges posed by emigration and the generations of brain drain caused by the departure for economic reasons of many of our most highly skilled and qualified young people. Over the last 20 years, however, this trend has flipped completely. Ireland has seen unprecedented economic growth and opportunity. The old challenges of immigration have been replaced by what is for us the very new experience of immigration and population growth. As a country, we have very successfully worked towards and achieved strong economic progress, but unfortunately without the necessary planning for the consequences of this economic success. In terms of infrastructure, and most especially the lack of housing supply, our young people feel the consequences of this most sharply in their daily lives. Ireland, from an international point of view, can be looked on as a study case for any small nation that aspires to economic success as to how planning for the consequences of economic success must not be neglected in the strive for this economic growth, and how sharply this lack of planning can impact on the circumstances of those young people starting out in their lives. Thank you.
Merci, chers collègues. La parole est à notre collègue de Thaïlande. C'est à vous, chers collègues. You have the floor.
Honorable Chair, dear colleagues, Sawadee Krap. I'm honored to be here on behalf of the young people of Thailand. We meet at a time of global uncertainty, from geopolitical tensions, trade conflicts, to transnational cybercrime and the climate crisis. Many young people feel hopeless and ask the difficult question, are we giving them a world full of hope or a world of burdens? That is why our theme, Nurturing Hope, Securing Peace, and Ensuring Justice for Future Generations is so timely and truly telling. To achieve this, we must empower young people. They have the full potential to shape the future, but they need the space to shape it. One of the strengths of the IPU is its belief in the power of young people and space provided for them to contribute. Thailand shares this same belief. Today, Thailand is increasingly driven by a new generation of leaders across all sectors. Together, we are driving a sustainable economy, improving education, addressing climate impacts, tackling scam networks, and reforming public administration to ensure a transparent and fair system for all. However, today's challenges cannot be solved by any one country alone. We must work together through sincere global cooperation with real action and real results for our people. This includes supporting future leaders with future skills, expanding economic and political opportunities, and promoting sustainable development. Dear colleagues, we have learned how much we can lose when we are divided, but we have also learned how much we can gain when we are together. So let us work together to empower young people, turn these lessons into action, and build a world filled with hope, peace, and justice for future generations. Thank you. Khop kun krap.
Merci, chers collègues. La parole est à notre collègue Akobian d'Arménie. Armenia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. It's a privilege to address this assembly on a theme that is a moral imperative for our generation. I come from Armenia, a country moving toward a new era of stability. On August 8, 2025, we turned the historic page. The joint declaration signed with Azerbaijan was more than more milestone. It was a commitment to mutual sovereignty grounded in the 1991 Almaty Declaration. Today, for the first time in decades, we have seen nearly 2 years without victims along borders. The silence of the guns is our most powerful message of hope. And hope becomes lasting when it delivers real benefits. Through the Trump Road for International Peace and Prosperity, TRIP, we are transforming the South Caucasus into a hub of connectivity. Last November, a cargo train from Azerbaijan reached Armenia via Georgia for the first time since 1991. We are also ready to facilitate transit between Azerbaijan and Türkiye, believing that interdependence is the best antidote to animosity. My government has embraced the vision of real Armenia, a state anchored within its internationally recognized borders. By choosing diplomacy, we have also secured the return of our citizens from captivity. As we approach our parliamentary election in June 2026, our goal is to make peace and democracy irreversible. We have learned that our destinies are interconnected. If we do not safeguard our peace, no one else will. Armenia stands ready to build a future where borders are not barriers, but gateways to cooperation. Thank you.
Merci, chers collègues. La parole est à notre collègue Kassaeva de l'Azerbaïdjan. You have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, distinguished guest. Young people are one of the fundamental driving forces shaping the future of every society. And in this regard, the decisions taken today will have a lasting impact on the lives of future generations. The crises we are facing in today's world are not isolated issues, but interconnected global challenges. The weakening of trust in international law, gaps in its implementation mechanisms, and growing social inequalities pose serious risk to international peace and stability. This reality shows that parliaments must play a more active role in ensuring the implementation of international law at the national level and enhancing oversight of compliance with undertaken obligations. In this context, it's worth noting that the Republic of Azerbaijan's primary objective is to ensure lasting peace and stability in the region, with every step aimed at achieving this goal. The strength of parliaments comes from their role as a link between the people and the state. However, this connection can only be effective when decision-making processes are inclusive and all segments of society, particularly young people and women, are meaningfully involved. In this regard, Azerbaijan offers a wide range of opportunities for young people to realize their potential. Artificial intelligence and other emerging technologies bring both new opportunities and new risks. Therefore, parliaments should regulate technological development with a focus on human rights and public safety, while also adapting to these innovations to help share a better future. In today's challenging global environment, strengthening international cooperation remains essential. Countries cannot effectively address these challenges on their own, making parliamentary diplomacy an important tool for maintaining peace and stability. In conclusion, our main responsibility is to leave future generations a more just, secure, and hopeful world. Thank you.
Thank you, dear colleagues. La parole est à notre collègue du Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein, vous avez la parole.
Dear Mr. President, distinguished colleagues from all over the world, I have the honor to speak today as a young parliamentarian from Liechtenstein, a small country whose parliament reached a new record of young MPs following the last elections in 2025. When our generation talks about hope, peace, and justice, we talk about the world we are growing into and the world we will one day be responsible for. And yes, today we see challenges and uncertainty, but we also see a lot of opportunities and a generation that is more connected than ever before. And that is where hope begins, and hope grows when young people feel included, when they are not only the subject of political discussions, but also part of the process. Participation is not just a symbol, it is the foundation of trust. If we want to secure peace, we must invest not only in institutions, but also in people. Peace is built long before conflicts arise, through education, inclusion, and mutual understanding. And when we talk about justice for future generations, we have to look beyond short-term solutions, because our generation will live with the consequences of today's decisions. Dear colleagues, around the world, young people are engaged, informed, and ready to contribute. They are not turning away from democracy. They are asking to be part of it. So let us build bridges between generations, because hope is nothing we simply pass on. It is something we build together. Thank you.
Thank you, dear colleagues. La parole est à notre collègue du Canada, Monsieur Chong. Monsieur Chong, you have the floor.
Fellow parliamentarians and friends, I am honored to join this global conversation as a member of the Canadian Parliament. I stand before you as a parliamentarian who is Asian, immigrant, and proud gay. My presence here was not guaranteed. It is the result of barriers being challenged and systems being changed. So let me be very clear. The most powerful force in systems change is not policy, not funding, not programs. It is mindset. Because policies reflect mindset, funding follows mindset, and programs are built on mindset. If we do not change how we think, we will rebuild the same system that produced inequality, just more efficiently and effectively. In Canada, change started with truth. In 2017, our Prime Minister acknowledged in the House of Commons the systematic harm against two LGBTQIA+ individuals. But truth does not change system, action does. And action begins the moment we stop accepting outcomes as predetermined. Because what we call inequality is very often design. Systems are not neutral. They are built on priorities. They are built with biases, with consequences, and they deliver exactly what they are designed to deliver. If we want new outcomes, we must redesign with intention. That means bringing new voices into decision-making. That means shifting power. That means choosing courage over comfort. Because when we change who decides, we change who the system serves, and that changes everything. So the question is not whether systems change. The question is this: will we redesign them intentionally, decisively, or will we allow them to keep failing people as designed? I urge all parliamentarians to address barriers faced by youth, women, people with disabilities, immigrants, and two LGBTQIA+ people, and to act with urgency to remove them. It is my responsibility, and equally, it is yours. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, chers collègues. La parole est à notre collègue de l'Assemblée parlementaire de la Méditerranée, Monsieur Metazza. Donc, non, la parole, pardon, est à notre collègue de l'Iran, Madame Rafei.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. همکاران محترم، آقای رئیس سلام علیکم. من از سرزمینی آمدم که در سابقه 2500 ساله حکمرانی و تمدنی خودش آغازگر هیچ جنگی نبوده. مردمانی که اولین حقوق و منشور حقوق بشری رو تدوین و اجرا کردند. به صورت واقعی این سرزمین 50 روز پیش مورد هدف حمله وحشیانه نظامی توسط امریکا و رژیم منحوس اسرائیل قرار گرفت و ما جوانان زیادی رو در این حمله وحشیانه از دست دادیم. اما مردم من برخلاف رویه ثابت و معمول نه فرار کرد نه مهاجرت کرد. مردم من ماند. 50 روز شبها جوانان ما در خیابانها یک صدا ندای مقاومت سر میدهند و دفاع از وطنش رو. همکاران گرامی، اهداف حمله وحشیانه نظامی نه فقط به مراکز نظامی ما بود، بلکه به مدارس ما شکل گرفت، مثل مدرسه میناب که 168 دانش آموز رو که اندازه جورجیانا که اومد اینجا صحبت کرد رو مورد هدف قرار داد. 168 دانش آموز رو. بمب‌های دموکراسی امروز فرایند آموزش رو در کشور من هدف مختل کرده. متاسفانه برای کشور من که 98% مردمش باسوادن. میراث جهانی رو در کشور ما 120 بنای تاریخی رو مورد حمله قرار داده. زیرساخت‌های عمومی ما رو که صرفاً برای رفاه حال مردم بوده مثل پل B1 هدف قرار داده و 50 میلیون تن آلودگی وارد آسمان کشور من کرده. و اما باید یاد بکنم از ماشین ترور اسرائیل و امریکا که عالی ترین رهبر سیاسی ما رو متاسفانه ترور کرد همراه با نوه 14 ماهش. و اما پیام من به جوانان کل دنیا، به پویش جوانان نه به ظلم نه به جنگ، در کنار جوانان ایرانی، لبنانی و غزه بپیوندید. امروز باید نظم حاکم که نشأت گرفته از بربریت بر مناسبات جهانی است رو برهم بزنیم. امروز روز شماست و نکته من از طرف جوانان ایرانی به مجامع بین المللی، سکوت در برابر جنایت عین جنایته. ممنون و متشکرم.
Merci. La parole est à notre collègue du Pérou, Monsieur Soto Palacios. You have the floor, dear colleague.
Señor presidente, muy buenas tardes y colegas parlamentarios del mundo. En principio, quiero agradecer a los hermanos de Estambul por su cálida acogida y felicitar por su hermoso país. Nuevamente nos encontramos para tratar un tema trascendental en la coyuntura actual: el fomento de la paz, la consolidación de la paz y el aseguramiento de la justicia en el mundo. La paz nos impulsa a lograr un futuro mejor y alcanzar la paz. Es un deseo de todos. Para garantizar ello, debemos de asegurar una justicia imparcial y el cumplimiento de los derechos humanos. Solo así podremos mantener el orden social en el mundo. Actualmente existen conflictos bélicos que amenazan nuestra estabilidad. Por ello, trabajemos para que las diferencias se solucionen pacíficamente. No podemos pensar que, causando la muerte de miles de personas inocentes, se pueda alcanzar la paz y la justicia. Por ello, propongo hacer un pronunciamiento de la UIP llamando a los líderes de las naciones que hoy tienen diferencias para que depongan sus actitudes beligerantes e inicien un proceso de diálogo alturado y responsable. Dejemos a las futuras generaciones un mundo mejor, donde la esperanza, la paz y la justicia estén sobre el desarrollo y el conflicto y la arbitrariedad. Finalmente, no quisiera concluir sin antes agradecer a la Unión Interparlamentaria por haberme permitido ser parte de esta importante organización durante los 5 años y por organizar a mi solicitud la 11ª Conferencia Mundial de Jóvenes Parlamentarios en mi país, Perú. Muchísimas gracias.
Merci, chers collègues. La parole est à notre collègue de l'Ukraine, Madame Tacheva. Madame Vasilenko, pardon, excusez-moi.
Merci, Président. Dear colleagues, distinguished guests, hope, justice, peace. Such important concepts in the world of today. Justice preconditions long-term peace. Without justice, peace remains only a hope. A pause between wars at best, benefiting the aggressor. Today, justice is missing in many parts of the world. It has been absent in Ukraine since 2014, when Russia began its unprovoked aggression by annexing Crimea. To us in Ukraine, this aggression seems never-ending, and we live the consequences of it every day. In 2014, the international community failed to act. Hope prevailed that if appeased, the aggressor will stop. A lesson not learned too many times in history. In that space, Russia regrouped, rearmed, and escalated the aggression into a full-on war. For when aggression goes unpunished, it grows and it spreads. Now we see rising civilian casualties globally, in the Middle East, in Africa, conflicts multiplying, not resolving. As a woman, as a mother, I must say, too many children today know what an air raid sounds like. Too many children today can distinguish between the sound of a missile and a drone. Too many grow up in shelters instead of classrooms because their schools and their homes are destroyed. And too many parents, including those of us in this room, carried the quiet fear of not being there when it happens, when an explosion can easily take everything that means something away, while we are here advocating for peace and security. Colleagues, for the sake of our children, the youth of today and the youth of tomorrow, we cannot fail. Wars end only when they are ended. Unpunished, dictators return, using everything from energy and food as a weapon of war. I say this not from theory. Many years of life in war taught us in Ukraine to take defense seriously and push for accountability. So I urge you, endorse the Special Tribunal for the crime of aggression in Ukraine, support Special Claims Commission for the victims. The choice is simple: real peace or false hope, accountability or escalation, justice or just a pause before the next war. The choice is ours. Thank you.
Merci, chers collègues. Merci. La parole est à notre collègue de l'Assemblée parlementaire de la Méditerranée, Madame Bergamini. You have the floor, dear colleague.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you, dear colleagues and guests. I am the last speaker, so thank you very much for your resilience in being here. It's a great privilege to contribute to the discussions of the general debate. The topic is very timely. We need more than ever to foster hope for future generations. It is a matter of urgent political action right now when hope seems to be fading away. The choices of our parliaments today will define the viability of peace and justice tomorrow. As parliamentarians, we are obliged to prioritize decision-making processes that aim at long-term stability and cross-generational liability. We are witnessing a period of dramatic geopolitical rifts and a crisis of confidence in the multilateral architecture. The integrity of international law is being undermined as actors operate with increasing disregard for global rules, fueled by the systemic failure to implement resolute accountability mechanisms. In regions torn by conflict, rebuilding confidence is pivotal for overcoming grievances and building a future of hope. For this, the active participation of younger generations is key. Parliament should encourage greater participation of younger people in political decision-making and leadership, as well as in intergenerational dialogue. In this spirit, PAM has established the Youth Initiative, an open platform designed to connect existing youth fora and political leaders and parliamentarians among the Euro-Mediterranean and Gulf regions. By championing a model of parliamentary diplomacy that prioritizes long-term regional resilience over short-term gains, PAM remains dedicated to building a Mediterranean region where the next generation inherits a credit of hope, justice and peace, rather than a debt of unresolved conflict. Let me also express the support of PAM for the ceasefire between the US and Iran and the recent ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. The escalation has threatened to engulf the entire region with catastrophic consequences. Let us all work towards ensuring that this pause in hostilities matures into lasting peace and stability for our younger generations. Thank you.
Merci, chers collègues. Merci, chers collègues. Ainsi se termine notre débat général. Je vous remercie à tous de votre attention et de votre participation. Je vous donne rendez-vous demain matin à 9 h précises pour l'élection en comité directeur du nouveau secrétaire général. Merci et bonne soirée à tous. Et je vous invite bien sûr à aller à la soirée culturelle qui est organisée par notre pays hôte, la Turquie. Et merci à tous de votre participation. Bonne soirée.
you.